Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to a big edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Huge weekend coming up for the Winnipeg Jets. Tonight, we celebrate Connor Hellebuyck's 300th win at Canada Life Center, and then the Jets and the Los Angeles Kings drop the puck just after 7 p.m., and then right back at it tomorrow night. Huge Central Division matchup with the Colorado Avalanche coming to Winnipeg. Kind of the midway point of this 8-game homestand, and certainly when you break down the opponents, probably the two big dogs coming in over the course of this 3-week stint at home for the Winnipeg Jets. We're going to get ready for tonight's game, and also, I mean, listen, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the Kings and Jets and this big game tonight for all of us in Winnipeg. What LA, their team, and their fans are dealing with right now, it kind of makes, this game tonight seem absolutely trivial. Obviously, earlier this week, the Kings and Flames had to postpone their game in LA because of the horrible fire outbreak that's cost many people their life, as well as gajillions of dollars in lost properties and belongings. So we're going to talk to John Hoven, the mayor, down in L.A., find out how everyone's dealing with the current situation, and then, talk a little bit about hockey because that's what we do, but certainly with everybody in our thoughts. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on. I'll get his thoughts on the latest with the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuyck, and, of course, this big weekend for the club. And Super Wildcard Weekend is here. 6 big games in the National Football League to kick off the playoffs and the run to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton will jump on in the second hour of the program with the NFL Notebook. We'll get you ready for the NFL playoffs. And then, as we always do on Fridays here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, get ready to drop the marbles. A marble race later on to finish up the program. Welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you all in here. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel on YouTube. And a big happy Friday to all of our podcast listeners jumping on and making us a part of your day. Thanks so much for doing that. Speaking of thanks, couldn't do it without our great team of sponsors here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks to our partners at Coolbet Canada, the great people at Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, fansfirst.ca, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, the Winnipeg Jets, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and we will get to a why not question of the day for the gang over at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get this show going. Michael Remis, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I'm ready. Big weekend. Wild card weekend in the NFL, and the Jets, back-to-back games, Friday, Saturday. Big night. Connor Hellebuyck pregame ceremony, not playing. 300 wins. Chuck Hellebuyck's in town. Dylan Samberg returns. And they're going to announce the quarter-century team for the Jets. I don't know if it's going to be before the game, any minute now, after the show. Not much suspense there, but that's the thing the NHL is doing, quarter-century team. And I guess quarter-century, like top 100 or something when it's all said and done. So lots going on today, Huss. Looking forward to talking to you, hearing some of these clips that I got to put in the document there. And yeah, there we go.
Hey, just quickly before we get into business for today, can I quickly give a shout out to the gang at Wrestling United? Man, did we have a great time last night out at St. B at the Franco-Manitoban Cultural Center. The 4th Wrestling United event. Got a chance to do color on the call with my pal DDP, Dave Patrician. And holy crap, what an incredible show. Tons of the best local talent coming all across Western Canada. And the original bro, Matt Riddle, in town as the headliner. Reem, we've been to a few of these events before, but I have to tell you that the level of entertainment got cranked up. It was one of the best shows that I've ever been to. Big league, independent, you name it. A special shout out to Carter Chen, social media superstar. You can see Carter at Ritz Kraka. You probably already follow him for all his great food content. Carter is such a natural playing the heel manager. Shane Madison, the Mecca, TJ Cannon, they did their big St. Boniface street fight. But honestly, it was so much fun. And then afterwards, and listen, this might mean nothing to people that hadn't followed the WWE in the last few years, but I mean, Matt Riddle was a guy that was a UFC fighter. He then came in, he kind of had this, his shtick was like the stoner, California surfer bro dude. I've never met anybody in my life that is more authentic to their character away from work than Matt Riddle was. He was so incredible with all the fans and the people that were there afterwards. Just a great, great night. The next event, I think they're going to do something on the Park Theater in February. But March 27th, you can mark that one down. We'll get you some more information on that, and maybe we'll do something for WST for one of these events because, Remo, I always think about the Rumble to Remember that we went to as a crew from the TSN group. I got to tell you, this was right there with that and maybe even then some, and a great, great local event last night to be a part of, and just so much fun. I threw some stuff up on my Instagram, but wanted to give them a shout out because Mike and Zach and the guys that are putting this together are doing an amazing job of it. It was just so much fun to be a part of.
Yeah, there's been a great local wrestling scene here for a while. And nice to see you, Hustler, officially in the biz.
I'm in the biz.
You're getting
Cash
your
the
envelope.
check in pro wrestling.
Yeah, you're getting your envelope after the game. Congratulations to you, living a life, fulfilling a lifelong dream there. And yeah, you're telling me about Matt Riddle. Not so familiar, but looked him up. Yeah, tag team champions with Randy Orton. Been in the squared circle, been in the octagon too. So what impressive career. Nice. They're bringing some talent in town. So well done, Huss.
I'll fire it out when so we the broadcast. I guess they recorded everything to put up on YouTube, and I think those matches will be out there with the call. There's myself and DDP doing our thing, and then Remo. I think there's a couple other pictures on there as well. There's Shane Madison. You got it. Yeah, that was the street fight, and you can see Carter Chen there, the manager at the bottom. He of course got involved quite a bit, and there's Matt Riddle at the end. Dude, just an absolute physical specimen. Anyway, shout out to Mike, Zach, and the gang for putting on an amazing show last night, and fun to be a part of it. And yes, when the matches are up. You can check it out with the commentary of myself and Dave Petro. For you regular listeners, will probably enjoy a very different version of what we do each and every day here on WST. Anyways, just wanted to give those guys a shout out. Let's get to it. Big weekend for the Jets coming up, Remo. And I mean, listen, the Kings come in. They've only played 38 games, but one of the best winning percentages in the league. They're 13 games above 500, 51 points. Having played only 38 games, this has been a great season so far for Los Angeles. They're right there. I mean, technically ahead of the Oilers on points percentage, and just a few points back if you extrapolate out those 3 games in hand to the Vegas Golden Knights. And, we saw, and we'll talk about this with the mayor a little later on. I mean, if you think about this season for the Winnipeg Jets, for all the games that they've won and then lost, I'm not sure that the Winnipeg Jets have been squeezed more than they were in that game against LA down at Crypto earlier on this season. I think that was the game. They only had 15 or 16 shots. Certainly they didn't play their best, but a lot of credit goes to the Kings. And this is going to be a big test for the Winnipeg Jets tonight.
Yes, you nailed it, Huss. They played in November 27. The Jets lost 4-1, and they only managed 15 or 16 was generous. 14 shots on goal. Hustler.
14? Okay, it was even worse than I remember.
It was worse. And it was Big Save Dave getting revenge, stopping 13 of 14 on his way to the win. And Anze Kopitar, I remember, but didn't even have a hat trick here. Was it last year? I mean, this guy just keeps going. He had 2 points in that game. Adrian Kempe had 2 points as well. We'll get a good look at them tonight. And the Kings, they had the coaching change last year. They fired Todd McClellan, in the offseason, moved on from Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I know they're missing Drew Doughty, but some of the other defensemen have stepped up at times for them. So the Kings, they're a structured team. They're well coached, and I think these are 2 very tough opponents this weekend with the Avs tomorrow. They won last night over Minnesota. And the Kings, who are sitting right there third in the Pacific, just behind Edmonton and Vegas, but you mentioned have played less games.
You know, all week long, we've been talking a lot about Connor Hellebuyck, and I will give Mike McIntyre and Connor Rabchak a little hat tip for both nailing it. I asked both of those guys early on the week how they thought that we'd see the goaltending distributed out this week. And listen, the Jets have had 4 back-to-backs so far this season. Connor Hellebuyck has played the first game in all 4 of those back-to-backs. Eric Comrie has been in the net for the second game, and it hasn't gone well in the second end of back-to-backs for the Winnipeg Jets. Both of those guys thought that the Jets would switch it up this week and put Eric Comrie in on Friday and then have Connor Hellebuyck play the back end of it against the division rivals, the Colorado Avalanche, and those individuals were exactly right. Eric Comrie confirmed as the starting goaltender tonight. Now, we haven't got confirmation on the Kings goaltender. I guess you probably think Darcy Kemper in all likelihood, although it's been a pretty even split between the two. I am here, Remo, for a battle, a head-to-head battle of the Jet backups between Eric Comrie and Big Save Dave, but we don't know whether it'll be Big Save Dave or Darcy Kemper as we get closer to game time.
No, I haven't. I haven't seen. Oh, I haven't seen that.
DFO says Kemper unconfirmed, so
okay. Well,
we will wait to see what we've got from the Kings.
I'm just hoping Eric Comrie can get a win. As it's been a while since his last win. Doesn't have one in his last 5 games. Doesn't have one even in his last 6. November 1st against Columbus, the last victory for Comrie, where he allowed 2 goals, and it's actually the only time he's allowed 2 goals this season. A lot of threes for him, and 1-4. And it just seems like every time he plays, the game is really close. The Jets are in it. And then, whoops, someone makes a mistake and it's in the back of the net. Going to try to limit those. It'll be a bit easier on the defense with Dylan Samberg back. But you'd like to see Comrie put up a 2 spot, give them a good chance of winning. I think he's been solid, but is just not quite there. And no wins in his last 6 starts. You'd like to see him get one, and I think the team they look at the numbers as they know they want to get him 1-2. And I think with the divisional opponent tomorrow makes sense. Having Hellebuyck play, and also they're doing the pregame ceremony. Once we found out about that, we're like, what? He's going to be part of this ceremony for 300 wins, 40 shutouts, 500 games, and then have to play after. I think it gets a goalie out of their starting routine. So, and you know how much goalies are about routine,
yeah.
Hustler.
Well, and maybe no more than our guy Connor Hellebuyck. So, Comrie tonight, Helly tomorrow, and yes, if you are, and I kind of mentioned on Wednesday just how special of a night it was in the rink on Tuesday when Hellebuyck got that 300th win, the connection between him and the fans and all that. I would suggest if you weren't able to be a part of that on Tuesday, make a point to trying to get down, first of all, to be a great game against a top opponent in the LA Kings. But I think that ceremony that's happening tonight is something that I think Jet fans will look back 10, 20 years down the road when we're talking about, Hellebuyck's amazing career and Hall of Fame and all the things that we expect the future to bring for him, and think about this week, this milestone, and tonight. So suggest you join us down at Canada Life Center if you're able to get your hands on tickets for this one tonight. Let's hear from Scott Arniel. There was a lot of speculation all week as to how this was going to work. The Jets certainly had not at any point this year run Hellebuyck back-to-back. Mike McIntyre asked Scott Arniel about the goalies and the decision to go with Comrie tonight.
It looked like Connor Hellebuyck was going through his kind of starting routine, but then Eric came off first. Can we read? Are you going to tip your hand to us, or?
Well, you can take it any way you want. I don't. Yeah.
One of them will be in net today?
Yeah, we're not playing. Somebody isn't getting both, that's for sure.
Okay. Looks like Eric tonight, though, but.
More than likely.
Okay. Normally with the back-to-back, you might go your starter, but maybe who you're playing, divisional opponent, might factor into that decision a bit.
Yeah, Colorado has a little bit to do with it. Yeah. So.
the defense pairs.
And that's not being disrespectful to LA.
No.
At all. Not at all. So it just, last time, obviously, Colorado's a huge divisional game.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about, Reem, about Connor Hellebuyck's performance against the Avalanche earlier this year. I mean, in a season of wins and shutouts and brilliant games by Hellebuyck, that game, like when I just think off the top of my head, that 1-0 shutout win where the Avalanche hoarded on for the better part of the second and third period, that might be his best game so far this season. And of course, you know, because of the way the schedule shook out with back-to-backs, it was Eric Comrie who played on New Year's Eve in Denver. So I'm not surprised they want their big gun in the net to take on a team that they could very well be neck and neck with, chasing for points and playoff position right down to game 82.
Yeah, it's November 7, Huss, 35 save shutter from Hellebuyck, and normally a 1-0 game. You know, you think it's not going to be the most entertaining, but it certainly was quite the show there.
Oh, that game was amazing.
From number
playoff feel in that one.
So I imagine it's going to be ramped up, and you wonder, you know, how the Jets are going to play in these two games back to back. You know, it's at home. You don't have the travel involved, because we have seen, you know, the second half of some of these back to backs just don't have the same amount of gas. But I think they'll be able to get ramped up tonight following the ceremony, and then tomorrow for a divisional opponent. And I do think part of that is Comrie. You know, a lot of his games, second half of the back-to-back, and you can see, especially during these road trips with all the time zone changes and the travel and everything, you know, they just, you know, sometimes it's just not there as much as you want to say, hey, it's hockey. You know, this is a pro league. You got to give it, you be ready every day. Some, you know, some games,
the backups,
it takes a toll.
The backups often get thrown in, and I don't want to say no-win situations, but very tough win situations. And that's been the case for Eric Comrie, and the team hasn't given him enough run support in his recent starts. And, you know, they'll certainly look to flip that tonight. In fact, here's Arneal on, you know, just the feeling in the room of really wanting to get a win for Eric Comrie, considering how the last few starts have gone.
They talk about it a lot. So they do. I mean, that's the one tough part about being a backup, is you're getting all the crap games, the tough ones, the 4 and 6, the back-to-backs, the tough travel ones, and he's given us a chance to win every game. He really has. You know, some of the situations that we put him in, you know, obviously he deserves better.
You know, I was trying to articulate it in a little different way, but I think the coach got right to the point. They do get some of the crap games, don't they?
I didn't rattle off 4 and 6 there. I missed that. The 4 and 6, the 3 and 4, the crap games, the scheduled losses. So they want to get him a win. Hopefully he gets one tonight. You don't want to have like 7 losses in a row. So I expect a great, you know, I love this Friday, Saturday, back-to-back. Still got the stink of a certain back-to-back many years ago against one team, but two teams. We're not bringing that up. We're bringing out the 2 games tonight. Looking forward to it.
Gabe Vilardi loves going up against his old team to remind them what they gave up. It's like peacocking in front of your ex when you're in a much better situation afterwards. I think we may have to add a Vilardi goal into some sort of a WST parlay a little later on. We'll work on that. But in the meantime, here's Arneal on just Vilardi's impact and his net front ability, both on the power play, but also tipping pucks.
You know, it's a skill set that, you know, some guys are great passers, some guys are great shooters. To have that ability to do that, you know, that's something that you know, it's a hand-eye coordination thing. It's something you have to work at. I think that, don't quote me 100%, but deflection goals and rebound goals are the 2 biggest. You know, when it comes to analytics, the 2 biggest goals that are scored in the NHL. So why not? Why wouldn't you go there? You know, why wouldn't you go and put yourself in a position where, you know, you can get sticks on pucks? And in this day and age where we're at, defending, teams are so good at keeping you away from getting quality chances from the slot and getting those sort of one-on-one with the goalie situations. The goals that have to, and especially in the second half of the year, the goals that are the ones that come are the tips and rebounds, and that's every coach, that's what you drive your guys to do, get to those areas. And it's really easy sometimes when guys are struggling the tendency is get farther away from the net, and you just tell them work to get back to that net front, find those ones, and tips are a huge part of guys getting back on track.
Hey, Remis, how about our guy Sam Crow with a very, very generous super chat? Thanks, Sam Crow. Let's get this party started with the mini super chat bomb. Go Jets, go! Amazing support from our pal Sam Crow. Thanks so much for that. A little bit more on Vilardi, and this was a question about his ability to protect pucks on the wall.
Yeah, and the thing about Gabe too is the puck around his feet and around when he's got defenders on him, his ability to kind of protect the puck, not some, and he'll use his body, but he also uses his stick really well. Whether he's whacking the other defender's stick or he's staying heavy on top of it, he does a real good job, real in tight around his feet with that protection, and allows him to create himself maybe a foot, 2 feet to make a pass, to get a shot off, and wall play for power forwards is a part of their DNA. That's something that they have to be good at to have success in this league.
Now, one more on the coach, just going back to goaltending, and kind of funny that we spent a little time this week with a bunch of our guests just looking ahead to this weekend and how it would kind of shake out. Coach Arneal was asked how far in advance they actually plan the goalie rotation and who starts when.
We usually kind of look at it. Flats and I will get into it usually a month. They'll kind of lay it out, see you never know what's going to happen over the course of the season. So we just kind of get into it. A couple times we've kind of get in maybe a week away, 2 weeks away probably, and kind of maybe flipped a couple. But it's all kind of the travel, workload, where we're at with everything. This one is a little different because Colorado's coming in tomorrow, and we obviously it'll be a big game for us. So as is tonight, but. Calms hasn't had a chance to play at home here in a bit, so it's nice to give him an opportunity here.
All right, so there's Jets head coach Scott Arneal. Eric Comrie with the start tonight. Hellebuyck tomorrow against the Colorado Avalanche. Well, we did our part. We had the Josh Morrissey prayer circle on Wednesday, hoping that the Jets' number one defenseman would be okay and back in the lineup. That is the case. J-Mo will be on the blue line tonight when this thing gets going. Morrissey spoke today just about leaving Tuesday's game with the injury and how his team responded without him in the lineup.
Just awkward play, but got lots of work done the last few days, and avoided any issues. So 100% healthy and good to go.
What do you think of the way your other 5 teammates on the blue line kind of stepped up, especially in third, where you guys were on the penalty kill for a good chunk of it?
Yeah, it's the guys did a great job. It was a tough third period, just with the way it played out with the penalties, and the guys did a great job. We've had that situation come up a number of times this year, getting down to 5D with 40 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it is left in the game a few times. So in that situation, you don't want that to happen, but sometimes you just play, your heart rate's up a little bit more, and it's not a sustainable thing, obviously, over the course of 82 games, but for sometimes a period or two, you're almost you don't have time to think. You're just into the game and playing more minutes. So the guys did a great job, and it was huge. It's disappointed I didn't get to celebrate the win with Helly, but it was a big win for sure.
There's Josh Morrissey on Tuesday and the injury that kept him out for the third period. It is worth noting, Reem, that with Morrissey out, who logged so much ice time, Stanley having a rough game, and then spending that 4 minutes in the box, which preceded that absurd holding penalty to Kyle Connor, where the team was down 5-on-3. The way Neil Pionk and Dylan DeMello stepped up on the PK, as well as Dylan Coghlan and Ville Heinola, who I don't think had even been in a PK meeting. It was a big third period for the Jet blue line, the depth of the Jet blue line when they really needed it. Now, as far as the Jet blue line goes tonight, as we talked about yesterday, Stan's staying in, but with Dylan Samberg returning, he'll be back with Neil Pionk. The third pairing is going to be Logan Stanley and Dylan Coghlan, and Ville will sit this one out in the press box tonight. We'll see whether that changes for tomorrow. But back to Josh Morrissey. He did come back for one period. And I think that's what was concerning, the way he was clear that he was trying to come back into the game but wasn't able to continue. Here's how he described what happened in the third about the attempt to come back and then opting to not.
I think it's a combination of everything. Obviously it's a combination of everything. I don't think they would have let me back out there if there was any kind of risk or issue. More of a, sometimes you try and work through things and you're able to, and other times, it just doesn't allow you. So I think that was more of a little bit of both. But thankfully we had 2 days off, and when we got a little more stuff done, avoided any injury or serious injury, and able to put in a big shift with the guys and get it feeling really good enough to practice yesterday and feel good today.
Let me speak for all Jet fans when I say thank God that Josh Morrissey is okay, and he'll be back patrolling the blue line for the Winnipeg Jets tonight against two big-time opponents this weekend, beginning tonight with the LA Kings. Here's what Morrissey had to say about tonight's visitor, the Kings of Los Angeles.
Yeah, they're always a good team. Since I've been in the league, I feel like the core pieces that have been there, the culture that they have. You talk a lot about kind of the Boston culture through the years with the players they had and, the core pieces that have been there. I think the same about LA. Obviously, they've been without Doughty this year, but, every time you play them, those top guys have obviously created a culture within that team, and certainly, they're committed to playing at both ends of the ice. Never an easy night, and obviously they've got lots of talent. So, when you look at what they've been doing, we didn't feel we had our best game in their arena. We feel that, we'd like to play our best against them and get their best, and obviously, have a better competition, I suppose. But definitely they're a great team with a long-standing culture that is tough to play against.
And that's just the start of the weekend. You get the Kings coming in, playing at a clip right there with the best teams in the National Hockey League, albeit having played a few less games than teams like the Winnipeg Jets. And then tomorrow it's the Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche started off this week with a bit of a dud, losing in Chicago, of all places. They came right back last night on the second end of a back-to-back and blew the doors off a decimated Wild team that didn't have Kaprizov, that didn't have Brock Faber and a few other regulars, but a 6-1 win for Colorado. And that Colorado team is going to be here in the Peg chilling tonight while the Jets and Kings do business tonight, and then, of course, right back at it tomorrow. Here's Josh Morrissey on a very busy weekend with two big-time opponents in LA and Colorado coming to Winnipeg.
Yeah, you can't focus on the next game. You just got to worry about the first one first. It's a big game tonight. Two teams that are playing really well and, committed to structure, don't give up a lot, offensively. So I think, for us, the benefit, obviously, back-to-back, Colorado's here and resting, but, we're at home. We're in our own beds. We're not traveling tonight or getting into a hotel late. So, still back-to-backs aren't easy, but there's a lot of benefits to being able to play two in a row at home. So focus on the first one tonight. It's a big game, and then do what we need to do to recover and be ready for tomorrow.
All right, so there's Josh Morrissey who is speaking today, and Remo, we referenced this, but the other big news when it comes to the Jet blue line is the return of Dylan Samberg. We heard from Samberg yesterday. It has been since late November, that game against the Nashville Predators where he broke his foot, that he has been out. The Jets have made it through, and now one of their workhorses on the blue line rejoins Neil Pionk. I know Arnie will be happy, but I think Neil Pionk might be the happiest guy to get Samberg back in the lineup.
Yeah, the big Hermantown connection, partners. Samberg, huge boost to the penalty kill. And if you're worried about him blocking more shots, he's got what he called a transformer skate, covered with armor. I don't know if they're going to show it on the broadcast or not. He's got a lot of extra shot blockers on there. Didn't have them on the front of the foot before. He's got it now. Hopefully, I'll knock on my desk here. I got a wooden desk. Knock on it that doesn't suffer any other injuries from blocking shots. But hey, it's tough, man, getting in those lanes. And we talked about it yesterday. I mean, blocking the Stamkos shot and then breaking your foot, and then, hey, why not another one? It's like Happy Gilmore going into the batting cage. Hockey practice starts in 365 days. So looking forward to Samberg's return on what he's going to bring to the team.
All right, we are going to talk with the mayor, John Hoven. But you know what? The chat is popping early right now. Let's do this right off the bat and get some fan feedback. By the way, let's get some predictions from people right now. Why not question of the day? Your predictions for this back-to-back for the Winnipeg Jets. Kings game, Colorado game. If you think it's win-win, go WW in the chat. If you think it's LWWL, where's the confidence levels going into this weekend, Jet fans? Let us know in the chat. But a lot of great comments, so let's do it for our friends at Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the secondary market. No fees at Fans First, not to mention the best customer service in the biz. But the bottom line is, when you're looking for tickets on Fan First, what you see is what you pay. No additional fees on that. And from a seller's perspective, when you list your seats, you know exactly what you'll be getting, and they turn it around real quick next day, right in your account. And Fans First continues to grow as a great venue for Winnipeg Jet fans to both buy and sell tickets. Now, there's a lot going on in the chat. Great stuff from Todd Fertani. What up, Todd? Hell usually gets the loudest standing ovation for the starting lineup. Can't imagine the ovation and fan appreciation level he's going to see tonight. Definitely with you, Todd, on that. And make sure to get there early. If you're normally a guy that comes just in time for the anthem, make a point of getting your seats 10 minutes earlier and be there to recognize the greatness of Connor Hellebuyck. And then lots to talk about the start. I mean, Bardo said, I just think that the Kings don't let us score. I'd want our best goalie to stop them from getting many Ealer. Hilly, I think, has good mind control. Well, certainly that. Red River Rebel says, Jets need to clean up these games or else they might not be the first to 30 wins. I'm not sure if the first to 30 is really worthy of anything, but I'm with you, Red River. You want to play your best against some of the best competition, and certainly of this long stretch at home. These two games, you couldn't help but notice on the calendar that the level of competition were coming up. See that great super chat from our friend Sam Crow. Appreciate him doing that. Mark Sports Video, not a fan of going with the backup tonight. He said, you've got the best goalie in the world. Play him. How do we already know that Hellebuyck is too tired to play two games? Mark Sports Video is sort of with me. I do believe that Hellebuyck is a workhorse unlike anybody else. I'm not as concerned about the amount that he's played so far. In fact, I would love them to run him out most nights. However, both Hellebuyck, Wade Flaherty, the coaching staff, they've got a plan, and no one knows Hellebuyck better than himself. He'll get the night off tonight and be able to really sort of bask in the appreciation from the fan base, and then put that game face back on tomorrow for a huge game against the Colorado Avalanche. Let us know what you're thinking in the chat right now. Keep it coming for Fans First. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, listen, just before we bring in the mayor, John Hoven, big shout out to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Cannot wait. The WST wrap, along with their friend Rolly's, the new truck coming out very soon. We're going to show off some pics and do some fun contesting in the summer to find the WST truck on the road. But listen, Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Family owned and operated for over 60 years, helping Manitobans get to their next destination. If you've got a move planned for 2025, get the white glove treatment from the Rolly's team on your next move. What you're going to do is head on over to their website at rollies.com. You can see it on the screen right now. Top right corner, click that request an estimate feature and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let the fellas at Rollies know when you're planning on moving, where you have to go, and what's involved in the move. They'll turn it around, get you that estimate, and get you set up to take as much of the stress out of a very stressful time in moving when you're planning at any time in 2025. For your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in Manitoba. Find out more or request an estimate today over at their website at rollies.com. Well, we had a nice little blip in the weather yesterday, getting chilly again coming in this weekend. And of course, it's January and February. We know the drill here, folks. But are you ready for it? Have you left it a little too long? Is your battery not getting you through the day? Manitoba Battery can help you with that. The best prices on the biggest selection of batteries in town. Your local option to save money and save time. Price-wise, they're beating the pants off the big box stores with the lowest prices in town. And service that is unmatched because they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Now, if you do need to test your battery, pop by and see them free. Logan Avenue, Dover Court Drive. They'll test you, let you know, and if you need a new one, you could pick it right up there, save a few extra bucks, and be on the road and not worrying about what Mother Nature is throwing. Get ready to get through this winter. Manitoba Battery. Check them out today online at manitobabattery.com. And hey, as we're into 2025, folks, I know a lot of you are working on some personal improvements in many different ways. Listen, if you're looking to up your menswear game in 2025, you know the drill. Get on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. F Apparel, the #1 spot for custom men's clothing, including custom suits, beautiful, made to fit, tailored to you to look great, starting at just $400. They've also got chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Check them out online, fapparel.com. That's EPHapparel.com. You can book a fitting, time to come in for a fitting as well. Otherwise, pop down and see them in person. Tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. 190 Smith Street downtown for F Apparel. All right. Brandon Rewucki will join us. We'll get to more Jet topics coming up. But let's focus in on what's happening right now with the Los Angeles Kings. And listen, this natural disaster that's taking over Los Angeles right now is costing many people their livelihoods and unfortunately some people their lives. The hockey game does seem somewhat trivial, so we'll see how things are going, how our friends down there are doing, and then get to a little bit of the hockey talk before tonight's game. Let's bring in the mayor, John Hoven from Mayor's Manor right now. John, thanks so much for doing this. You know, normally we'd kind of yuck it up, look forward to a hockey game, but it is a little difficult to focus in on the Jets and Kings with what's going on down in your area. First off, how are you? How is your family? And how are you and everybody dealing with this tragic fire outbreak that's costing so many people everything they have?
Yeah, you know, you're right. It is difficult to even think and focus on hockey right now, considering what's going on. You know, fortunately, most of my tight circle of friends and family are all safe and either on the north side or on the east side of where some of these fires have taken place. But, you know, to think that tens of thousands of people have been displaced from their homes and everything that's going on, it's tragic. But I do want to give a quick shout out to both the Kings and Jets organization and wearing a decal on their helmets tonight to, you know, honor the brave men and women that are on those front lines and dealing with these just unbelievable circumstances is, you know, a very small token of the gratitude that all of us have for, you know, what those firefighters do. It's pretty harrowing.
I've got to ask you, John, this seemed to happen so quickly and explode so quickly. When did you find out that this was happening, and how would you describe just going from, oh, there's a fire, to an absolute natural disaster on this scale and scope?
Yeah, you certainly don't want to act oblivious to it, but, you know, we do have fires that take place periodically, and once you go, it's an hour away, and sometimes you do, unfortunately, just callously go back to your busy life. But so Tuesday was kind of like, oh, there's a fire, you know, and you're not really hearing much about it. But within that 24-hour window of Tuesday afternoon to Wednesday, I would say, is probably when it became, wow, this is, nuts. Maybe it was Monday to Tuesday. I don't know. The whole week has been really a blur, to be honest with you. I just know that Tuesday night was pretty rough. And then, you get to Wednesday and morning, and the Kings home game was canceled that night. And, the writers for my site, they still track the Ontario Reign, which is the AHL affiliate, and they had a game that night in Henderson. So you're sort of stuck in that weird position of, now is not really the time to tweet or talk about hockey, but, they also have a job to do, and they're still, having to tweet out scores and, different things off of our main account. So you do the best that you can to try to maintain, any sort of normalcy, give some people an escape if that's what they need or want. But obviously the, much bigger concern right now is, like I said earlier, these tens of thousands of people that have been displaced from their homes, and now the rebuild at some point is going to begin. But we're talking years to get back to any sort of normalcy for most of these people.
You mentioned the game between Calgary and the Kings a couple days ago that ended up being postponed. Listen, I think everyone is affected differently depending on where they live, but the Kings as an organization and as part of the sporting community affected both, with a game, but also, the players there. Do we know how the Kings team is handling everything, and what that week has been like for them before getting on the plane, getting away from everything and away from their families, unfortunately, here to Winnipeg for this game tonight?
Yeah, well, for the most part, the players don't live in the areas that are impacted by the fires. The majority of the players live in what we call the South Bay, which is 30 minutes, say, south of Los Angeles, where the fires were more west of where the arena is, closer to the ocean, but, the players live near the ocean, but south of that. So, they're at the same time, players, team personnel are scattered all throughout Southern California, and everybody seems to know somebody, friends, family, whatnot, that are, impacted by this. And it's been on every single news channel 24/7. So it's hard to escape it. It's in your face, and you're just watching, and, you get sucked in. You turn the TV on for a couple minutes, and next thing you know, you're 2 hours into watching what's going on with the fires, because it's unbelievable. It's more like a movie than it is real life. So it's very sad. And, hopefully the players, as best they can, again, because they have a job to do as well, hopefully they were able to get on the plane, escape that, a little bit if they can. But I'm sure that their thoughts are definitely with what's happening in Southern California. And most of the players in the organization, even those that have relocated from all over the world, even outside of North America, they still carry a lot of pride in the city of Los Angeles, and are very connected to the city of Los Angeles through the charity work they do and things like that. Not even to mention the fans that they're very well connected with as well. So I'm sure that everybody, is thinking of those families, like I said, that are displaced by these fires.
The Mayor John Hoven's with us from LA and Southern California. You can check out the site Mayor's Manor, and John obviously keeping realizing that what's happening on the ice is almost trivial compared to what people are dealing with in Southern California. There is a game on tonight, and the Kings come in here as one of the top teams in the league, certainly by winning percentage, on a real nice run with 4 straight wins, including teams like Philly and the Devils, Lightning, Oilers. This has been it's been a pretty great campaign for LA up to this point of the season. Still a few games away from them hitting the halfway mark.
It's been, when you look at the season in totality, I would say it's been a success up to this point. There still is a lot of work to do for this Kings team, though. They began the year with 30% roster turnover, a brand new coach, putting in new systems. So there was a tremendous amount of change coming into the season, and they needed to work their way through that. And then on top of that, they didn't even get to hold really their training camp in Los Angeles. They, had to go on the road because of the renovations at the arena. So they opened the season with an extended 7-game road trip, and then played another long road trip right before Christmas. So the back half of the schedule will see them play more games at home, and that's actually great. They have one of the best, if not the best, home records in the NHL. I believe only 2 losses this year in regulation on home ice. So they're playing well there. But really what's been most impressive for the club is how Coach Jim Hiller has gotten these players to sort of galvanize and become a team. He's figured out some line combinations that he likes. Like most coaches, he has sort of pairs that he's interested in, and then tries to rotate some of the the other wingers around to get those fits in. But he's integrated some younger players into the lineup, whether it's Alex Turcotte or Brant Clark and guys like that. Andre Lee, Sammy Hellenius, all first-year players there for the most part, as well as, Warren Fogle, who they brought in from Edmonton, finding a good landing spot for him, moving Quinton Byfield to the center after starting his first couple years of his NHL career on the wing. So a lot of changes. And once those changes started to settle down in late November, things have really turned the corner. And, they put the hurting on Winnipeg the night before Thanksgiving. And so it'll be interesting to see now. I'm sure the Jets remember that game very vividly. And, they're looking forward to the rematch, if you will, on their home ice tonight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jets have had a great season. I'm not sure that they've been squeezed more in a game all year long than that one at Crypto against the Kings earlier this season. Last year when we spoke, I mean, certainly from Winnipeg's perspective, when you were talking Kings, we were all looking at PLD, who sort of forced his way out, got what he wanted, and went to LA, and the season looked like it ended up being an absolute disaster. Has it been addition by subtraction, moving on from Dubois? And how will you look back at the PLD era with the Kings?
100%. It's been addition by subtraction. You certainly wish no ill will on a player. Hope he goes. I said this many times in different interviews and on our own podcast. I hope he goes and scores 50 goals, every year for the next 10 years. It's go ahead, have a great life, have a great, career. It was not a good fit in Los Angeles. It was, really, it led to so many different things, including ultimately the firing of Coach Todd McClellan. When I look back on the PLD situation, I sum it up this way. It was a huge swing by GM Rob Blake. It was a huge swing. He was coming off of really winning 2 summers prior. He won, the summer a couple years before that by the acquisition of Victor Arvidsson and Phil Deneau. I would, again, argue to find any GM that had a better summer that year. The following year, he made the trade for Kevin Fiala, the biggest fish that was available that year. So he was coming off 2 successful summers. People can argue that, they haven't won a playoff round. And while that certainly is true, we still, in the hockey world, hockey media, we grade the summer changes that happen on rosters. I mean, just look back at last summer and, everybody was ready to anoint Barry Trotz, the greatest thing ever. And that thing has blown up in his face there in Nashville. So you still grade the summer and at the time, and then you look back on it, a year later and did it really work? So I think he had 2 really successful summers with those roster changes, and he made a big swing in bringing in PLD. And, a lot of people try to point to how many assets were given up and whatnot. But for me, it was a 1-for-1. It was Gabe Vilardi for PLD. Kapari had not found an NHL roster spot in Los Angeles, and Alex Iafallo had to be traded the day they signed Trevor Moore, because those are sort of offsetting cap hits. So, they moved money that they had to move in order to get PLD in there. So my point is, I look at it as a 1-for-1. Gabe, I covered him from the day they drafted him, probably covered him closer than any other member of the media in Los Angeles, including, what he was doing in juniors and what he did at the American League level. And he's the most talented prospect they've had in their organization, probably easily in the last 20 plus years. He's a highly skilled player. They made a big swing. It didn't work out. And so my second point to it would be the bookend of that story, which is Rob Blake was able to trade the largest contract in NHL history that's ever been moved. And when you stop and think about that, it's pretty remarkable that 1 year later, he realized it wasn't working. He pulled the plug and was able to move that deal that everybody said was, an immovable contract. He moved the largest contract in NHL history to ever be dealt. And I think that, that's the positive in the story. So we'll just leave it at that. It's addition by subtraction, like you said.
John, on a positive note, I've got to ask you about Anze Kopitar. This guy's going straight to the Hall of Fame, 37 years old, and yet still playing, amongst the elite stars of the NHL. Point-a-game pace, leading the team again. I mean, how does he keep doing it year after year after year? And just how great of a season is he having?
Yeah, I will argue this point with anybody. He is the most underappreciated and underrated player in NHL history. If he played anywhere on the East Coast or in the Eastern time zone, there would be statues of this guy already built in multiple cities. He's just a remarkable, unbelievably consistent player, and deserves all of the accolades that will be, coming his way once he retires and makes the Hall of Fame, like you said. From all indications, he has one more year left on his contract, and that'll be the final year, 20 years in the NHL. So, if you haven't been out to an arena and seen Anze Kopitar play live, it's worth it. Buy a ticket, go do it. You have, a year and a half to get it done. He's the product of, he's a coach's son. And there's just those type of players are a different type of player usually because they understand the game. They think the game differently. And I think it's contributed a lot to his consistency over the years. He knows what it takes to win. And he's just a remarkable player. To think that he's doing what he's doing at 37 years old is shocking to some, but not to those who follow him. And the other thing that I would just point out is that there have been two pivot points in his career, and they both have to do with changes to the head coach. He had a remarkable year, the 2017-18 season, when they brought in a new head coach in John Stevens, and Kopitar was in the Hart Trophy conversation that year. And then this year with the new change to Jim Hiller, it just for some reason there's it's more than a coincidence that those two moments have sort of been able to breathe new life into a fairly consistent, like you said, Hall of Fame player. So it's outstanding to see. And the best thing is I think they're bringing his minutes down a little bit this season and using him in different ways. And that's really what they need to do. Get those younger players out there on the PK. Stop having to always rely on, Mr. Reliable and Anze Kopitar, and it'll free up some of his offense.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about Adrian Kempe. I mean, he's on a 40-plus goal pace, has turned into, a real star in the league. I'm not sure. I mean, you know better than me. I kind of thought that maybe Kevin Fiala would be that guy that would be popping 40 for the team and being right up there with Kopitar. Has Kempe kind of turned into the 1B for the club? And where's Fiala at? And how much pressure's on Fiala considering, what they invested in him to get him to L.A.?
That, it's interesting that Kempe plays alongside Anze Kopitar because you could almost make the argument that he's Kopitar Jr. in the sense of, underappreciated around the league. We were just putting together recently this all quarter century team as the NHL has that initiative. And Adrian Kempe for me is on the first team. You're talking about three forwards. You get three forwards there. And for me, it's Dustin Brown, it's Anze Kopitar, and it's Adrian Kempe. And some people are like, oh, wait a minute, what about, whoever, an insert player? But when you look at Kempe's body of work and what he's been able to do, he's played over 500 games. He's one of the longest tenured LA Kings, and his career is far from over. And he's, like you said, he's, had these big goal scoring seasons. He's on a valued contract. He's quietly their best goal scorer. Now, when you move on to Kevin Fiala, and by the way, Adrian Kempe is playing in the Four Nations, so I think he'll get a little bit more attention because there's going to be a lot of eyes and lights on that Four Nations tournament coming up next month. He's the lone representative for the Kings. He'll be on Team Sweden, so the country and the world, for that matter, will get to see this player that I believe the last time he put on the Team Sweden sweater, he led the World Juniors in goals. So he's a pretty phenomenal player. In terms of Kevin Fiala, there's always pressure on Kevin Fiala because he has a big contract. He was brought over in a trade. With, Brock Faber going to Minnesota, who's blossomed into, a number one defenseman. So there will always be pressure on Kevin Fiala. It really hasn't fit. Yes, when you get a guy like Fiala, you automatically normally think he's going to go on the top line. But for whatever reason, people, whoever they are, say that it doesn't work up on the top line with Kopitar and Kempe. Fiala is a little bit more of a puck distributor. He's playing on a second line, sometimes on the third line. They've moved him around. I'm not necessarily sure they found the best home for Fiala long term. He sort of goes in spurts and is a little bit streaky, so he'll play well with one line or one combination of players, and then they'll move him to a different line. Who knows if we ever end up seeing him with Kopitar and with Kempe. I would say at this point probably not, but with Jim Hiller, anything's possible. He does like to change things up. Maybe in a year and a half after Kopitar retires, you see Kevin Fiala playing on a line with Adrian Kempe. That's far down the line. But I will say this, that when there have been critics of Kevin Fiala, Kopitar, as the captain, the leader that he is, he's jumped to Fiala's defense, and he really calls him the team's game breaker. And so when Fiala is on the same page and playing within the structure, within the system, and not taking penalties, he's a pretty deadly player for the LA Kings.
John, thanks so much for doing this. I know it's probably not easy talking about regular season hockey games with what's going on. We're thinking about you and everyone down in Southern California, and really appreciate you coming on today. Just before you go, fill our listeners and viewers in on all the SoCal hockey content you've got cooking with the team over at Mayor's Manor.
Yeah, sure. We have a whole team of writers, like I said earlier, that cover the team from a 360-degree view. We cover the business aspects. We cover prospects that aren't even playing pro yet all across the world. We cover the AHL, the NHL. So thank you to all of the team of the staff that we have at Mayor's Manor, and also thoughts to one of our writers. His father actually is a firefighter, been with the Long Beach Fire Department for a really long time. So, our thoughts are with him as well. And people can follow the team on Twitter, Mayor NHL, or on Twitter as well, Mayor's Manor. And like you said, mayorsmanor.com. And give us a listen on the podcast, Kings of the Podcast, which is a really fun show that I think a lot of people will enjoy.
John, be well, stay safe. Thank you very much, and all the best to you and everyone dealing with what you're currently having to do down in Southern California right now. Thanks so much.
Appreciate your thoughts, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right, great stuff with the Mayor, John Hoven. And yes, for those of you wondering in chat, he's not the actual mayor of LA at this point talking to us about a hockey game tonight when the city is burning. That is his nickname, the Mayor, John Hoven. Check out the website, mayorsmanor.com. Does a great job along with his team, as we mentioned, covering hockey in SoCal, focusing on the Kings. All right, we're going to get back to the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Brandon has to say about these upcoming NFL playoffs. Hacksaw coming up later on, marble race as well. But let me take a quick opportunity to give a big shout out to the great people at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk heading into 2025. Proudly Winnipeg, just like Winnipeg Sports Talk, founded and headquartered right here in the Peg, and now growing coast to coast, but with 3 locations in Manitoba to serve you. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and for you folks outside of the city in Westman, pop by and visit Princess Auto in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And don't forget, you can get those ideas generating and shop online 24/7 as well over at princessauto.com. Hey, the weekend's here. If you are making a trip to your local Manitoba liquor marts, make sure to keep your eyes out for Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and your boys here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, the OG, the original Canadian whiskey since 1848, Canadian Club, available along with the Canadian Club Classic, Canadian Club 100% Rye. When you pop in and you're looking for Canadian whiskey, make it the best. Look for that Canadian Club display at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And don't forget, CC and Ginger, ready to go, pre-mixed cocktail in cans, available at your local beer store as well. So you can keep your eyes out for that. Pick it up when you're popping into your local vendor for a rack. And hey, just before we bring in Brandon, if you have fencing and overhead door needs coming up this year, make sure to give a call to our great partners over at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door experts since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if your home needs a new garage door, Wallace & Wallace has the biggest selection of overhead garage doors, one perfect to match your home and add value to it at the same time. Give them a call at 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to pop down and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online, wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, and pop down and see them at their showroom on Lawson Crescent, just off of Kenniston as well. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in here, host of Skates and Plates. New episode up wherever you get your favorite pods. Brandon, happy Friday. What's going on?
Not too much, my man. Happy to chat. It's been a while. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And ready to get into it.
What an awesome sports weekend. I mean, Kings tonight, Avs tomorrow, and we will have to touch on the 6 super wild card weekend games in the National Football League. But the big one tonight, and listen, before we even talk about this game, Let's talk about the guy that's going to be celebrated before the game. Connor Hellebuyck finally got that 300th win to go with the 40 shutouts, putting himself in the most rarefied air in NHL history, along with a guy you might have heard of named Jacques Plante. Sometimes, as Edmund said, sometimes you take for granted what you have in front of you, but in real time, we're watching a guy put together a Hall of Fame career, and certainly the most decorated Winnipeg Jet of the 2.0 era.
Yeah, and maybe I'm a little more sensitive to that, try not to take this guy for granted type of talk, because as a Flyers fan, witnessing the goalie graveyard over there, it's like, do not let that man even take a step outside Canada Life Center without an 8-year contract. So, definitely don't take that for granted. I mean, we're at the point now, though, and he was, that was Hellebuyck at his best in that Nashville game, the 5-on-3 later on, right when they were really under siege there, he was a brick wall behind the Jets defense, big time in that one after a couple so-so performances by his standards in the last two. But it's pretty wild that I don't think the Hall of Fame thing's up for debate anymore. To me now, it's become this kind of fascinating discussion of just how high is he going to climb up the all-time goalie rankings list by the time his career comes to an end, hopefully a long time away from today. I mean, it's really, really. I hate to make the comparison and say the name, but this might be the closest we've seen to Hashikian levels since the Dominator was on that 3 Vezina, 3 Hart Trophy run back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, when you're talking about how much better he's been than league average over the course of these past few seasons, how few of the other best goalies in the league are able to put up what he does on a consistent basis. He's nowhere near as flashy as some of those legendary names, but it is just continued, sustained excellence game in, game out. And he makes it look easy, which is the ultimate mark of an all-time great. And yeah, I don't think Jets fans are. I certainly am not going to be taking this for granted anytime soon with Vezina number 3 just about to be etched in stone here.
Well, and listen, I kind of had said a couple of weeks ago, I've moved on from even talking about the Vezina. We'll continue to pump his tires for that. But, based on everything that we've seen so far and the numbers that he's putting up, where the team is right now, I think that we're halfway to a potential Hart Trophy season. And, I will maintain, I try and make this point whenever we've got some of the guys on the program from outside of the market, that if you have a netminder that is going on a back-to-back Vezina, that is leading the league in wins, in shutouts, in goals against average, in save percentage, and in minutes played, how is he not the favorite for the Hart Trophy? This is the most important position in hockey. And to your point, Brandon, there is a gap between Connor Hellebuyck and the rest of the league in most of those categories. He should absolutely be at the top of the list of any Hart candidacy right now at the midway point of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think there's probably 5 or 6 guys, for me at least, that have set themselves from the rest of the pack. I think Leon Draisaitl, you could certainly make a case that he's maybe the front runner right now. McKinnon's got a pretty substantial lead in the scoring race. You have to throw him in there. You have Kaprizov. There's one other name that I'm missing right now, but I think Hellebuyck absolutely deserves to be in that mix. And then it comes down to how they perform in the second half of the season. I think all of those guys are really, really close right now. But then you get into the whole goofy, what's more valuable, goalie player, that yada, yada, yada. I love the way the CFL does this. I wish the NHL and other leagues would just adopt this as how they determine the award. But to me, it should just be most outstanding player, a.k.a. which player had the best season that year. And then it becomes a little more easy. There's some subjectivity, of course, but at least then it's a little more easy to parse and make a case as to who you think might be best. But he's got to be in the mix. If he's not in the mix, you don't watch puck. To me, it really is that simple. The other thing I would say on that front is, and I've made this case on Skates and Plates the last couple of weeks, but with how much he's elevated his game and how there is no debate as to who the number 1 goalie is in the NHL, if he's going to be in that same rarefied air as the Dreisaitl's, the McKinnons, the McDavids, etc., all those teams basically do whatever's in their power, whether it's at the deadline, just before the deadline. But it's basically 2030 doesn't really exist in our minds. It's we got to find a way to win the cup now and leave no stone unturned while we have one of the best in the entire world available at the peak of their powers. That absolutely applies to Connor Hellebuyck and the Winnipeg Jets right now. And on top of it, too, you have Josh Morrissey playing like a top 5 defenseman on the planet to go along with some of the other great performances on the team, right? But I just feel like you can't necessarily just let this go to waste and assume it's going to happen next year, the year after that, the year after that. If you've got somebody like that playing at that level, then yes, needs to be in the hard conversation. But to me, if you're in the hard conversation, there also needs to be a pretty high amount of aggression in terms of supporting that player and that team in terms of trying to become maybe the de facto number 1 Stanley Cup contender headed into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, Julian popping in, if Helly can get to double-digit shutouts this season, he should hands down get the Hart. The others would survive without Draisaitl. The Avs would survive without McKinnon. Okay, this is a bad take, Julian. The Jets are a lottery team without Helly. Listen, you've got the number 1 power play in the league. That alone probably gets you into the playoffs. And as far as I know, for all the great things that Connor Hellebuyck has done for the Jets, the power play not being one of them. But listen, there's enough talent. I think you're selling this team short. But there's no doubt about it that Hellebuyck playing at his level takes you from a good team that can go up against most teams in the league to a team that, you know, should be winning playoff series and should be, you know, a big-time challenge for the best teams in the league. And that's how you're able to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, like I said, I have absolutely no doubt that there are conversations, I mean, just focusing on the Jets with Kevin Cheveldayoff and, you know, his counterparts every single day. Often these trades take a long time, and many of them are sort of put together 6-8 weeks beforehand, and until you're able to get your price or your trading partner is available or, you know, believes that, okay, now it's time to pull the trigger, and deadlines mean everything. That's why the trade deadline so much happens. I'm really interested, though, Brandon, on something we've been talking about this week. Like the Jets acted early last year. They identified the center position. They went and got Sean Monahan about a month out of the trade deadline. And I think that was very beneficial to the team. And there are a number of teams that like to do that. A month out from the trade deadline is the beginning of the Four Nations break this year. And when they come back, there's only going to be like 10 or 11 days before the deadline. I'm more intrigued about a potential trade market and potential moves by the Jets and other teams in the league in January this year than I think we would normally get in a regular NHL season.
Yeah, it's a fair point, especially because, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if you trade for somebody in the tournament, they get injured either way, you know, that they're not going to be playing for your team. But it's always hard to get a sense, like it really is, each year is a different animal and beast. When it comes to, do teams push it to the last second, or do they try to get it done a month early, a few days early? I mean, I think in an ideal world, as any team making moves for new players in and around the deadline, you want it to happen as far away as possible, like as far out as early as you can get it done. They can get acclimated. There's not this crazy rush, that sort of a deal. But I would say that just with the situation the Jets are in, maybe more so for them compared to other teams, because I think it is more of a, you know, a focus on quality assets as opposed to, hey, let's get 3, 4, 5 guys in here. If it takes till the last second of the trade deadline to get it done, you get it done. If it can happen before, great. If you got to push it till the end, you got to push it till the end. It just needs to be the right people coming in here. And I don't think it's going to be, we got a 7th defenseman who's 32 and 6'3" and a 13th forward who can win fate. Like I don't think that's going to cut it this year. And so
Matt Hendricks.
Matt, yeah, you read my mind as to who I wanted it to be. Yeah, but I don't really have a let's get it done now, let's get it done later sort of a deal. just get the right deal and do it. That's it. And whenever it happens, it happens.
Yeah, listen, I'll ask you because I can't remember who it was in chat. Oh, Sklarty. We talked a few weeks ago about Rasmus Ristolainen, and he's a guy that was on Pagnata's trade board yesterday when we talked to him, and of the teams that he mentioned having interest, Winnipeg was one of them. Listen, we talked about Ristolainen before going from Buffalo to Philly, and I know you weren't a big fan of it at the time. But he really has turned around his game, his numbers. Like where you see the Flyers more than probably anybody involved in this conversation or in the chat right now.
Which is good.
Yes, thank you for taking that load on for all of us. How much has Rasmus come along since joining Philly, and how much of an improvement would he add if he was a player that the Jets jumped on?
Yeah, so and it's funny because I actually kind of mentioned that a few weeks or maybe a month or two back that might be a good fit. Chevy kicked tires on that back when that first trade was officially made. In terms of his development from that trade, when he came to Philly, he was, to put it mildly, a complete train wreck. Like it's just crazy with what Buffalo's done this last 13, 14 years, where they got they got a guy and it looked like he had never been taught how to play defense before. And there was no confidence. There was no real awareness as to the finer details of what it takes to be a successful defenseman. They had a guy who was a physical specimen, and they basically just said, yeah, just go out there and play 25 minutes. And there was no real coaching going on there. So when he came, and that was why I didn't want the trade to happen in the first place, but when he came in, it was just like, geez, this is going to be a big, big project. But Brad Shaw, who's the Flyers' associate coach, and maybe only below Rick Bowness in terms of defenseman whisperers in the NHL, they put a ton of work into him, and he's a legitimate defenseman now. He's completely different to what he was like when he was in Buffalo. He would be more of your prototypical stay-at-home, shut-down, big physical defenseman. I don't think you want him carrying the puck up the ice. I don't think you want him making a ton of offensive decisions. Sounds like he would fit just well besides Josh Morrissey in that equation, right? But there's no doubt, like stylistically, he would fit with what I imagine Chevy and the management team there thinks that is lacking on that D-core. And then you get into the whole price situation, right? Like, what is too much? The one nice thing,
what's his contract and how much
he's got this year and one more. This year and one more at 5.1, 5.2, something like that, which I actually think is a bonus for the Jets. I think they need to be out of the rental market. I think it's get guys with term, go crazy with the picks and prospects if you need to, but make sure they're here for another couple of playoff runs. So it's, with the way the cap's going up, it's not that bad. It's not great. He's not going to be Chris Tanev, right? Like, he's not that level of a shutdown defenseman, but I think he can be a legitimate contributing piece to a top four. I think he's a good player now, and it just depends what your expectations are, though. Now, is he an upgrade over Dylan DeMello? I think stylistically it might be a better fit. And it certainly makes your right side, as deep as any team in the NHL, I would imagine. If
he's
Colin
a lefty, but plays right.
Yeah, he's been on the right side in Philly pretty much since the get-go. So everyone in Philly views him as a right shot defenseman. So I know a lot of people kind of hear the name and maybe bristle a little bit at his past reputation, but he's not that player anymore. Is he going to be, again, a Chris Tanev? No. Can he be a step below that and help your team out? Absolutely, he can.
Well, listen, and this goes back to a couple of conversations that we had, weeks ago, but, he would be a good plan B, beyond the guy that we know as plan A, and that's Rasmus Andersson. And listen, we talked a little bit to him about Pagnata. I do wonder, what the cost for Andersson would be. I think you got to be willing to pay it if there's a possibility of you getting him. Similar to Ristolainen, he comes on a really, one of the best contracts in the league, like straight up, with another year of term. You getting 2 playoff runs out of a guy like Rasmus Andersson. That is worth some significant assets going the other way. But I have thought if Calgary got to the point where they said, okay, we are going to trade him, just how high that price might be for a guy like Chevy.
Yeah, it's going to be substantially more than a Ristolainen trade, but that's what happens when you trade for a better player. It costs a lot because he's good at hockey. So, but you find a way to get something like that done, and I don't know how many untouchables there are in this Winnipeg organization for me when it comes to bringing high-level guys in. At the very least, even if it was a trade that drained your pick and prospect pool, like you said there, Rasmus Andersson is a legit top-pair defenseman. Not top 4, he can sneak in there. He will be a massive, massive boost to every team in the NHL. They're top, maybe outside of Colorado with Makar Taves, but you're talking about a, no doubt about it, top 20 defenseman in the league. And so if that guy's available for you and it's going to be for a couple playoff runs, I definitely would be willing to bite the bullet and bring somebody like that in. And then you get into the whole, could Nazem Kadri be a bit of a package deal in that too? Or do we have to go elsewhere for a potential second line centerman? But when Anderson, I'm not really holding back too much there. If that's the number 1 target and he's available, if I'm Winnipeg, I'm trying to jump to the front of the line to get that deal done.
Yeah, the Kadri thing, Kadri would be great to have on your team now. I know there would be some concern about the age, the length of the contract, what you're paying. But again, are we living in the now? Are we thinking about 2, 3, 4 years down the road? Or is this about the present? And, I think you and Julian and a number of people make a good point that, with what the team has shown so far this year, with Hellebuyck playing at the Hall of Fame level, with where the Winnipeg Jet power play is right now, which cannot be understated what a difference that is both now and come playoff time.
And I would say with the way the Central is too, Edmonton's rounding into form. Vegas looks strong, but you only have to beat one of them, right? But Colorado and Dallas aren't as fearsome as they have been in years past. So there's that aspect of it too, where there's no real juggernaut team in the NHL this season, like we've seen, looking back maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, where there were 1 or 2 teams that popped up. So I think that also kind of plays into, let's maybe not crazy, but let's get a little crazy with this because it might be our best chance.
As far as what might go out, I do think that Cole Perfetti is one of those not untouchable assets that, could be mentioned. I'm not sure where his stock is though right now, Brandon. He's scored in 1 of his last 20 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. Half of those came in 1 game. And Murat said yesterday, we were talking about the second line, and he said, I think right now they're playing less than the sum of their parts. Obviously, you want something to be greater than the sum of their parts when they're going on. What do you make of Perfetti? Are we seeing a similar kind of skid to that extended stretch that ended up having him out of the lineup last year? Or is this a bigger thing of just that need for the second line center and just not really having 3 players that, listen, Ehlers is getting his no matter what, and he's been a huge part of the power play. But just it not clicking with that group and, it being tough to really change up when you got a top line playing the way they are and a bottom 6 that has done what they've done all season long.
Yeah, I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as last year where I thought he should have been out of the lineup if it was a John Tortorella coach team, he would have been enjoying the press box for a couple weeks. He even with his many struggles here, he's still one of the Jets' best 9 forwards, no doubt about it. But it is a completely fair discussion to be had where, ultimately what is his ceiling going to be in the NHL and what is his ceiling going to be in Winnipeg? And would he maybe be best served elsewhere on a different team? And would the Jets be better served with a different element in their, we'll say, middle 6? Right? For me, I don't think Perfetti is an untouchable whatsoever. if he needs to be the kind of final piece of a big deal to bring in some high end talent, that's the price you're going to have to pay. It's also not all that outlandish in terms of prices to bring in a solid winger that might be like, maybe there's your rental piece as opposed to your other high end guys being players with term. And so you can kind of maybe fill your roster out that way. But I mean, I look at Perfetti, and he's going to be a good player in the NHL. But you just wonder, is he ever going to be more than just a 50-point power play 2 type of player? I'm also a little bit concerned about the lack of foot speed. That hasn't really improved all that much through a few seasons now. I don't think he's soft. Like he drives to the net pretty hard. Like he's pretty good at getting into the dirty area.
I think he's stepped up his game. I mean, he plays with there's more fight in his game, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, ultimately I just wonder if the lack of foot speed is what holds him back from being a true top line level talent. But, if you're a rebuilding team or a younger team that is maybe looking at guy, hey, again, yes, he's struggling right now, but if I'm from a rebuilding team or fan base, you're looking at it as, hey, it's a top 10 pick. He's still relatively young. You give him a little more opportunity. Like he gets maybe 20 minutes, 19 minutes a night. And he gets a sniff on the first power play too. Like maybe we can unlock something there, right? Like I can still see why other teams out there would look at that and be like, yeah, we'd be willing to take a shot at somebody who's, the foot speed isn't there, but great vision, great hands, can be a playmaker on a line. To me, when I've watched that second or third line, whatever you want to call it, play this year, I mean, Murat is bang on with that. But how many games have you watched where it's like Ehlers and Perfetti are just unstoppable tonight, right? Like we've seen a pretty big step back in Ehlers' 5-on-5 game this year, which is usually he's kind of done a complete 180 in terms of his production and performance this year. So I think it's absolutely on the table. And I think, look, there were the rumors Chevy was interested in some kind of a swap with Marty Necas, right? So it's not like this is new to Chevy and company, where it's realistically it's their best trade piece. Yes, they would have to fill a hole after that, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Perfetti's in the mix and pretty much any prospect for me, maybe outside of Salamonson, but like any other prospect and Braden Yeager, I should say too. But like everybody else, picks, prospects, everything else is fair game.
Well, and just circling back to, what it would take to get Rasmus Andersson out of Calgary. Talking to Dave yesterday, you hear it's the player, it's a pick, a prospect. What player are you looking for? I know everyone wants to trade. Oh, let's trade Logan Stanley for the guy
and a second.
Perfetti, at this point, still very young, a top 10 pick with the numbers that he's put up at times. Like, I think if you're a team like Calgary, you look at what they have, what they sort of need, and, the forecast for a player like that. And I think that would be kind of a really good fit. There's value to that of him coming in. It's something that you could sell your fans on as well if you were making that move. But it would have to be a player like that, with a team like Calgary, with where they're at, to make it. And then you're talking about adding in one of those other players potentially from the Moose. You're probably adding a top pick. Maybe you have to add in an additional younger-ish player like a Stanley or a Ville Heinola. But, man, if you could make that happen. And I'll say this. If, just to say Cole left in some sort of a deal in and around the deadline or beforehand, I do think Nikita Chibrikov, where he's at right now, could probably step in and maybe not be as offensively, he probably won't create as much, but I think the chances of him being a finisher, being in those areas where the goals are scored and adding a different dimension to that second line, I'm not sure the net loss would be significant. And in some ways, I think the line would be different, and I think maybe even more effective.
Yeah, just different, right? Like it would be different, but you could also make the case that's the exact element that you need with the Nick Ehlers, right? Where like Chibrikov can get a little nasty and a little dirty in the corners. And he's still got enough skill, I think, too, to put the puck in the net if he's given the opportunity there. So, yeah, whether it's Chibrikov, whether it's another external ad at a cheaper price, there are options that this team can point to try to fill in that spot if a bigger deal is moved. So, yeah, I get the sense that this is another one of those years where Chevy is, it might be quiet and we might not know what's going on over there inside the war room, but it's not a lack of activity that is taking place right now. So that's why I'm not worried if I don't hear anything, because it's like it's coming. We just don't know when it's coming.
No, and listen, I mean, I had a conversation with Cheveldayoff, not on the program, but we were talking about a bunch of things, and I was asking him about just the art of the deal and putting things together. And the one thing that he said, that these things just don't happen in a vacuum. I mean, very rarely, will you have like a Kane situation where it's blown up. But I mean, even then, they had been talking about Kane to a number of teams for a long time. So I think many of the parameters of what's possible, what the asks are, I mean, that's all there. And both teams, and general managers work towards the end goal. And sometimes it'll happen quicker than others. And of course, the trade deadline is the end game on all of it, why so many things end in that spot. Hey, listen, before we go, Hacksaw's coming on in just a second. We're going to get to the NFL weekend. How you feeling about your Birds going up against the Pack in Super Wildcard weekend? And do you foresee any big upsets on Super Wildcard weekend?
Yeah, feeling good. Feeling pretty good about the Birds. I would say the 5. I think the spread's 5.5 right now. I would say that's probably fair. I honestly would rather play Green Bay than Washington. Washington's played Philly tough, and Jaden Daniels is too much of a wild card. Like he could throw 4 TDs or he could throw 4 picks this weekend. I just don't want any part of it. But I feel pretty good about the Eagles moving past. The Pack are pretty banged up too. They're not playing great as the season's coming to an end here. So Jalen's back in. I'm feeling pretty good. As far as upsets go, I don't know. It's a bit of a spidey sense. I wonder a little bit about Buffalo. I love Denver's defense. I know it's Kansas City's backups they played last week, but it's tough to put up 31 zip on just about anybody in the NFL. I don't know. I definitely like Denver against the spread in that game, but if that Broncos defense can at least just limit the damage from Josh Allen, Sean Payton can get Bo Nix in some good spots, get the ball out of his hand quick. I might lean a little bit towards that one. I don't know if I would go as far to say it's going to be my absolute stone cold upset pick, but I would just keep an eye on Broncos Bills this weekend.
Yeah, listen, I think I'm going to jump on the points on both of those big ones. Pittsburgh as 10-point dogs to me is crazy when you think about the history between those teams. I think people are sort of spooked by the end of the Steelers season, but I mean, they went up against 4 of the best teams in the league. I thought their defense looked a lot better against Cincinnati in Week 18. I think that'll be a good one. Listen, Brandon, great stuff as always. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll look forward to catching up next week for the latest on the Winnipeg Jets and much more. Take it easy.
Sounds good. Have a good one. We'll talk Chiefs Broncos next week.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Take it easy. There goes Brandon Rewucki. We are going to get into the NFL notebook with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton coming up in just a second. But as Hacksaw would say, it is Beer Friday. Saw many of the Wrestling United fans last night enjoying generic lager. And in fact, a generic lager was cracked in the ring by TJ Cannon after winning the St. Boniface street fight last night. Here's a big to the weekend cheers from our friends at Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
3, 2, 1. Hey, listen, if you're looking for a great spot to get together with your crew for whether it's the Jet games this weekend or all of the NFL action, You know your local Boston Pizza is locked and loaded for a huge sports weekend. Pop on down to the BP Lounge for Jets action with pick-a-player contests and chance to win great BP food, swag from Royal Sports. It's still time to get in for that draw for that trip to Boston to see the Winnipeg Jets and Bruins. What a rematch that's going to be after that 8-1 ass-kicking the Jets dropped on Boston, and maybe some bad blood from that one as well. And, of course, all through the NFL playoffs, Boston Pizza's the place to be. Ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, chance to win great prizes. What could be better than that? And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And, hey, we're going to be talking NFL playoffs right now. Tons of excitement about the Winnipeg Jets. 4 Nations coming up next month. If you need some new gear for your favorite team, you know where to go for that. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway for over 40 years. The ultimate hockey superstore and sports superstore on the prairies. The biggest selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise. Tons of exclusive Bomber gear you won't find anywhere else. All your favorite NFL teams represented on the wall. And, of course, Major League Baseball, NBA, international soccer, the biggest hockey department in town. From full equipment right down to skate sharpening, and tons of cool gift ideas and more on the King's Skate, Snow and Surf side. You got to see it to believe it. If you haven't been there, what are you waiting for? Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram as well for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, let's welcome in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, who joins us now. And so, listen, obviously we're all fired up for the playoffs, but, we just had the Mayor John Hoven on earlier talking about this Jets-Kings tonight game, and, pretty hard to talk about anything to do with LA teams right now without talking about the scene down in Southern California. You've been there for a long time. How are you, your family, the situation a little south of that, and what can you say about what your fellow Californians are dealing with right now?
Hustler, nice to talk to you. Bad flashbacks. I've been here a long time. Sports Talk Radio, voice of the Chargers, the Seahawks. Lived here for 35 years. We went through this in 2007. My whole neighborhood burned to the ground. My house got damaged. I got burned getting out at 4:30 in the morning. So we lived this in the fall, and I've never seen anything like what the people in Los Angeles and Orange County are dealing with now. We had one point the other night, Hustler, there were 7 fires out of control, northwest, northeast of Los Angeles and in northern Orange County with zero containment. And if you go online, if you go on the LATimes.com website, there's a pictorial look at what the last couple of days have been. I saw a picture this morning that just shocked me. It's a development of 200 homes, all burned to the ground, one flat area. It's just been traumatic. And it's out of control, and we can't control it. We don't have the resources to control it. My son flies helicopters, fights forest fires, search and rescue. He's been out there on these lines. It's just dangerous, and it's just really sad. And so emotionally, it's been a traumatic week. And I find it hard because I experienced it firsthand, and it was just traumatic that I'll never, ever forget. So our heart goes out to the people north of us for what they're experiencing. We're not beyond it. I mean, we still have red flag warnings here in San Diego. We've luckily had only one fire north of us in San Diego. We've not had the winds that they've had other places. Just north of us, they had winds of 105 miles an hour on, quote, Palomar Mountain. Luckily, there were no sparks that would have triggered a fire. Otherwise, we would have been experiencing what LA's experienced. And, this touches everybody. Kawhi Leonard of the LA Clippers, he left the team on a road trip to go home because he lives in Pacific Palisades. He's on a different hillside. He survived. Steve Kerr, Golden State Warriors coach, his family's legendary home, gone to the ground. The Lakers head coach, J.J. Redick, his home, gone to the ground. They all lived in that Pacific Palisades area. He's an Olympic gold medalist, triathlon guy. He lost everything. So it's everywhere. It's really traumatic. So, yeah, thank you for asking. And I tell people, pray for the victims because it's a really, really bad time.
Yeah, it is. Listen, for those of us here, Lee, in, so far removed, you see the photos and it just seems like it's out of some apocalyptic movie. And then And then you hear people, I mean, especially down in California, I mean, so many celebrities and sports peoples that you just sort of, you know of, like losing everything. And on top of that, significant loss of life. I mean, property can be replaced, but, there are people out, and then to your point about, the firefighters and first responders, I mean, the conditions that they're putting their lives on the line to help save people and help save property. It is incredible. And both the Jets and Kings will be wearing a decal for the first responders tonight in their game tonight. I mean, it was kind of tough to move from speaking about something so serious to something relatively as trivial as the stuff that we do every week, basically living in the toy department, if you will. But the Kings had to cancel their game against the Flames. They're now here away, and I'm sure it's difficult to concentrate on what's to come tonight and doing their job. And then, of course, as we get to the NFL notebook, there it is, the Los Angeles City Fire Department. That's on the Jets helmets, and the Kings will have that as well. The NFL had to act quickly, and it just didn't seem like there was any way that this game was going to be played on Monday night at SoFi Stadium. And now fans of both teams, if they're able to, are going to have to think about getting out to Phoenix to play on what will be a neutral site game in the National Football League playoffs.
Yeah, and that's kind of an intangible thing that's happened. The Rams had to limit their workouts outside, and they finally canceled their workouts yesterday because another fire erupted in West Hills 2 miles from their practice facility. And the smoke was unbelievable, and they took their players off the field, went into classroom meetings, and dispersed everybody, and in fact, they shut the whole facility down. So the Rams are going into Arizona early. So they've had limited practices for 2 days. And the same thing happened to the Chargers. The Chargers have their brand new practice facility in El Segundo, just outside of LA, and they limited the workouts for 2 days just because of the lack of air quality. And of course, they're getting on a plane and they're going to Houston early. So they're going to have a walkthrough. The Rams situation, they lose home field advantage. I mean, because that's 72,000 fans wearing blue and gold that probably would have overwhelmed anybody wearing purple, the Minnesota Vikings, for the game on Monday night. Rams won't have that. They'll be playing in a strange stadium. Is it going to be sold out? Will it be Arizona fans will show up and just go see the game? Or will it be a half-empty stadium because Rams fans can't afford to go to Phoenix for even 1 day? So Rams lose an intangible there with home field advantage. But both the Rams and the Chargers a little bit impacted in terms of game preparation. And I'll tell you, those walkthrough snaps and those full practice speed snaps on Wednesday and Thursday, they're kind of important, but neither one's got them.
Lee, why don't we start off from talking about the games with that Monday nighter? Obviously, a lot of Viking fans here still smarting from Sam Darnold's worst game of the season on Sunday night with the stakes so high against the Detroit Lions. And, for their 14-3 season, their reward for that is a road game against one of the only two teams that they've lost to this year. This game, I have to say, a real toss-up. Two incredibly bright coaches, one Super Bowl winning quarterback, one that had a near MVP type season, and two of the best receiving rooms in the National Football League. What do you make of the finale to the weekend, Minnesota and the Rams, despite everything surrounding the LA team having to move out to Arizona?
Well, they're 14-3 for a reason. Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold have really clicked in terms of X's and O's, schemes, playbooks, and their attack downfield. And those two wide receivers are spectacular. I think one of the unique things about the Rams is they've gotten progressively better and better. I could have never imagined at a 1-4 start with their whole offensive line on injured reserve and as young as the defense was, could never have imagined them going 9-3 after that. Sean McVay has just, quote, coached them up. Now, the big challenge to be is that's a young secondary. That's a young defense. And they do play on the edge and they play fast. But Sam Darnold's got skilled people all around him. So can those kids in the Rams secondary hold up to everything Darnold's doing? Because Darnold's thrown 35 touchdown passes, and we're not doing that. They're running Aaron Jones. Minnesota is really diverse and dynamic, and the Rams are really young on the defensive side. The flip side of the conversation, Rams rested everybody on offense, even though they got beat the final game of the season. It was meaningless, which means, a full week's rest, like a bye week for Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Rams offense is much better now than it was, and obviously the kid defense has now had this bye week, if you will, to catch their breath. So going to be a good game. Hey, is it Monday night yet? It's going to be a good game.
Well, the great thing is that we got 5 games before we get to Monday night. What are your thoughts on, let's start with Saturday. We got the curtain jerker, as our friend Jeff Feinberg referred to it, the annual AFC South winner against who's ever playing them at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. And then, for my money, the best rivalry in the National Football League, Chapter 3 this year, Steelers, Ravens. These teams hate each other and always deliver when they play.
Let's just start with the Chargers, Houston. I've been rather critical of the Chargers. They're 11-6. They haven't beaten anybody. When they play good teams, they got punched in the mouth and they lost. And there are 2 games they wound up winning, the quarterbacks gave away. So I'm not sure they're a real 11-6 team. That being said, Justin Herbert is brilliant. What a great young quarterback he is. But they're really banged up. Their top 2 wide receivers missed a lot of practice this week. They're really nicked up in the running game. I think Ezekiel Elliott, who they just got from the Dallas Cowboys, is going to play. If he has to play, that means their running game's not doing well with J.K. Dobbins, who's been trying to play through ankle and knee problems. So the Chargers, they got questions to answer. Who have you beat? Now, that being said, Houston, Hustler, it's not the same team. They're 4-5 since midseason. And they had the great start. C.J. Stroud's a great second-year quarterback after a really good rookie season. But they're really dinged up. Their offensive front is dinged up. They've had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. Now, the only thing to keep an eye on, their defense is fast. They're giving up 314 yards per game. So Justin Herbert's going to have his hands full, I think, against this pass rush. And he's been sacked like 44 times. He doesn't turn it over, but he does take hits along the way. So keep that in mind. And I think the wild card in this equation, the Texans can pound the ball. And if they can get Dameon Pierce and Joe Mixon running the ball and getting first downs, you keep Justin Herbert on the sidelines, maybe it's kind of a really different game. So to me, Chargers have to prove themselves, although the quarterback I think is brilliant. And which Houston team is going to show up, the one that was really good early or the one that kind of staggered under the weight of the injuries? Second game, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Ravens, they check off every box. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's got 42 touchdowns this season. Lamar Jackson's got over 5,000 all-purpose yards. And when it's not him, it's Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry is close to 2,000 yards rushing. And Baltimore's obviously got multiple wide receivers, multiple tight ends. They're just a dynamic team. And the one thing that's different about Lamar Jackson tonight than a year ago or 2 years ago, he doesn't have to do it by himself. He's not turning the ball over. So that's going to be a fun game. Pittsburgh, they shot the bullet. They have nothing left. Pedestrian offense. They're averaging only 314 yards per game. I don't see how Pittsburgh stays in this game. People are really peeved at the organization, and they're jumping all over Tomlin. And, Sports Talk Radio in Pittsburgh says, yeah, that's great. You haven't had a losing season in 18 years. What's your postseason record, Mike? I mean, people are really steamed at Tomlin and just the organization. And they got this problem with George Pickens and his attitude and his unhappiness and his taunting and the bad penalties. Pittsburgh's not hitting on all cylinders right now. So I'm sorry. This is going to be ugly for Pittsburgh going in there to play Baltimore. So that's the Saturday matchups.
A lot of pressure on Lamar. I mean, are we getting the regular season Lamar, or does he turn into playoff Lamar, who is 2-4 even after some MVP seasons? I'm looking forward to this.
You could argue with me, but you'd be wrong because I'm a talk show host. This is the best version of Lamar, in all honesty, Hustler, because of the first time in his life, they got people around him that can help him.
Well, and unfortunately, no Zay Flowers this weekend, and that, he's there for, I think he's their first Pro Bowl receiver maybe ever, I heard, which was an absolutely insane stat. But listen, there is a lot of pressure on Lamar. I think they win this game. I'm just not sure that they run away with it like a lot of people are thinking. 3 games on Sunday. We started off with the Broncos as big underdogs going into Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Bills. The game I think I'm most excited to see this weekend, Green Bay and Philadelphia, both quarterbacks dealing with some ailments over the course of the week. And then the night game, upstart Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders against Baker Mayfield, who has authored another great season in Tampa. Just quick thoughts on those 3 Sunday games, Lee.
Can I send a memo to your hockey guy, Brandon, Mr. Hockey? If you're going to throw your money away betting on Denver, just send it to me because I can use it to pay for the $4.80 gallons of gasoline I have to buy in San Diego. Let's just start with Baker Mayfield versus Jaden Daniels. Fabulous. Baker has, reinserted himself into the conversation of being a really good quarterback. 41 touchdowns, 4,500 yards on the season. Jaden Daniels has surpassed anything anybody thought it was possible and was supposed to be a transition rebuild year. He does not turn the ball over, doesn't have a lot of sexy names at the skill positions around him, but he doesn't make mistakes. This is going to be a fun game because Daniels and Washington collectively is playing better than anybody thought, but Mayfield is really explosive and really dangerous, and they are throwing that sucker down the field. Green Bay, Philadelphia, the Packers have had a really good year. Jordan Love's had a phenomenal season, but he's hurt. He's got an elbow issue. He's practiced some, but I don't think he's doing 100%. Hurts is coming off the concussion, but they got Saquon Barkley. He's got the 2 wide receivers. And by the way, Eagle defense, 278 yards per game. It's tough to move the ball against that front 7, and their secondary is really good. So I got to believe Philadelphia is going to take out Green Bay, and we'll see how much Jordan Love can do with an elbow injury. I just don't know how the Packers are going to be able to move it series to series in that game. And then obviously, you look at the other matchup, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, there's just some really, really good football that's going to be played on Sunday, and only time will tell who's going to survive this whole thing, and then we get to Monday Night Football.
Well, the Lions and Chiefs get to chill, turn the TVs on, watch everything else going on, rest, and get ready for the divisional round next week with 6 great games in the National Football League. Marbles is open, by the way, exclamation mark Marbles. We'll get to that in just a few minutes after the Coolbet lines. Lee, before we go, we had Black Monday, some more pink slips, but it took a little bit. Not only is Antonio Pierce now out after doing all of his season-ending media, Tom Telesco's out too. House cleaning in Oakland. Is Tom Brady the guy behind all of this? And maybe speak to the kind of weird situation with the Saints search as well, if you would.
Well, it's just that we got 6 coaching jobs that are open right now. The Antonio Pierce thing, he was never a coordinator, ever. Yeah, he might have been a fine player, but he was an assistant coach, never a coordinator, never had true responsibility. He was really overmatched, talked a good game, couldn't coach a good game. They had a lot of problems with the Raiders, the quarterback issues, injuries, etc. This is an organizational failure. I mean, everything that's gone wrong there. I went back and wrote a column this past week on my website. If there's any Raider Nation fans out there, you probably don't want to read it, but go ahead and read it. This franchise is such a disgrace. Do you know they've had 2 winning seasons in 22 years? Think about that. The Raiders, their composite record since 2003 is 128 and 230. They're 102 games under 500, Hustler. Don't have a quarterback, don't have a running game, don't have much of a wide receiver. They're going to draft in the early stages, first round, might not have access to a quarterback this year. Do have $107 million in cap space. But they keep making bad choices, coaches. I don't think Telesco was the bad choice, but they only gave 9 months on the job to fix it. And you can't fix in 9 months what's been going on since the pre-John Gruden era. So that thing's a disaster. And there's other trouble spots. New Orleans they're in salary cap hell for the rest of their life. They can't get marquee coaches to go there. It looks like they're going to talk to Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to have to retain Derek Carr. So they're a bad situation. Chicago, as bad as the season was, might be the best coaching job of all because they got Caleb Williams. And everybody's interviewing in Chicago. Now, they're going to need to change the offensive front. They need to fix some defensive problems. But you got Caleb Williams, and that's huge. New England's got no players outside of the quarterback, but Drake May proved he can play. It'll be fascinating to see. There's a wrestling match whether New England wants Mike Vrabel or they want a bright light guy like Ben Johnson, whether Chicago wants Vrabel or Pete Carroll, or they want a quarterback guru like him. Jacksonville needs a quarterback offensive-minded coach. There's a lot of turmoil, but I will say this year, Hustler, more than any, I've seen, there's so many good names out there, the guys that want back in, guys that deserve second chances, and hot young coordinators. So of the 6 openings, most everybody, with maybe the exception in New Orleans, should do very well in, quote, the hiring era. One other note, the Raiders are known as the black hole, and Mark Davis has created a black hole with the way he's run that franchise. Cleveland right there is black hole too. This story that just broke this morning, that Deshaun Watson re-tore his Achilles tendon, and he's going to miss now maybe much of 2025. on top of the mess in 2024, on top of the mess in 2023, on top of the mess he left behind in Houston with lawsuits. What a disaster the Browns are right now from an organizational standpoint and from a quarterback standpoint.
Well, they already were. I'll say this. This might be good news for Cleveland, to be honest with you, in that Deshaun Watson was so bad last year. I mean, the thought of him coming back and playing quarterback for Cleveland probably churned the stomachs of every Browns fan. And I do think that if he's not able to play, they at least have an insurance policy for like 44 or 45 million bucks. So, I mean, they need to move on anyways. And it will be really interesting, though, who they go for. I mean, there was potential. I mean, Kirk Cousins might find a new home. Hell, maybe Aaron Rodgers in Cleveland. Could we see 12 in the dog pound, Lee?
No, we're not reaching for any more older guys with high values. They are going to draft high. There's going to be a quarterback at 1 and 2, and with what just happened today, Syracuse's quarterback Kyle McLeod, leading passer in the country, just opted out. He's going to the NFL draft. So there could be 3 fairly high first-round draft pick quarterbacks there, but Cleveland's in salary cap hell like New Orleans. I mean, you can say, well, we don't need him, but he's eating up so much of your cap space. I mean, the Browns have just made so many financial investment errors and mistakes. And now you got Myles Garrett saying, I think maybe I want to be traded. He's their star defensive player. So there's a lot of bad things going on in Cleveland aside from winter weather living in Cleveland. So, Browns fan is just out of his mind right now. I used to work there. The place is so passionate. They love the team. And this franchise, under the Haslam ownership, not very good right now. So fascinating. Once we get through the playoffs, the business of football starting in early February is going to really be interesting. We've got coaching hirings. We got free agency. We got the draft. We got a lot of people who need a lot of players.
Lee, listen, thanks so much for the chat and the time today, as always. And, as they say, it's fun to talk about these games and this hockey game we've got tonight and the huge big sports weekend. But we all know that is far from the minds of most people down in your areas right now dealing with what you are. Be safe and just wishing nothing but the best for everyone on the front lines and everyone dealing with those fires down in Southern California.
Well, thank you for the kind thought. And if you pray, say a prayer for the people here, because it's excuse me, it's really, really hard. Hustler, we'll talk to you Friday next week. Have yourself a great sports weekend.
You got it, Saw. Be well. There is the man himself, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Check out the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. Absolutely packed heading into the weekend. And as many of us jumped over to Lee's YouTube channel after our show yesterday, make sure you're giving a sub over at leehacksawhamilton.com. All right. Last call for marbles, everybody. We'll get going with a marble race in just a few minutes. We'll get to the Coolbet lines in a minute. Let's get Michael Remis back in here. And Reem, listen, I mean, Hacksaw's our guy, right? I mean, we've had him on for a number of years, probably our most loyal, regular guest from outside of the market. There's a heavy moment there for Lee. I mean, with what he'd gone through in San Diego before, and it kind of brings the horror of what those people are going through pretty close to home with someone that is so close to us and so many of our listeners.
Yeah, I remember him telling me a couple of years ago when there was fires and they were ready to go with their bags packed, and I can't imagine, having to deal with that with their house. And I remember my dad at his business had a fire that burned everything. He said it was the worst thing that ever happened, and I can't imagine having your whole house, your whole community, your whole neighborhood, all your neighbors, everything gone, and some scary scenes out there in Los Angeles right now. And I know the Kings. I sent it to you. The Kings spoke today about it, and Trevor Moore, who's from California, who plays for the LA Kings. Here, let me just pull this up here. He just said lots of people he grew up with have lost family homes, lots of friends who are first responders on the front line. We're super grateful what they continue to do. And Zach Dooley, the LA Kings manager of content for the LA Kings, he says, as hard as it is to focus, the Kings are playing for everyone back home. So some quotes coming out from the morning skate as the Kings are here now to play the Jets with those LAFD decals on the back of both of their helmets.
Yeah, and listen, the Jets, I think, in so many ways have always proven to be a first-class organization with the way they treat players and, the other things that they've done. Kudos to not just the LA Kings, but the Winnipeg Jets today, too, for, at a time where these two teams are going to be playing far away from Southern California, recognizing the first responders, the firefighters that are doing everything they can to prevent further loss of both property and, most importantly, lives. I see the Kings have posted this out for LA. We honor the heroic LAFD firefighters and first responders with this special helmet sticker, which we will wear throughout this road trip. Zach does expand. It clearly means a lot to the Kings players to be able to wear these. Phil Deneau said, we're thankful for all the women and men fighting the fire right now. We're trying to support them the only way we can, really, I think, is the one detail we can do. And then Jim Hiller mentioned the men and women on the front lines who are courageous, fighting, saving lives, saving homes. We just want to make sure that even though we're not back in town, that we're still thinking about what is going on there. There's also a fire relief link that the Kings have putting up, and I imagine this will be a team that, will be playing with heavy hearts, but will be very much motivated to try to bring at least something good back to the people of LA. And, they said the quote right there from the head coach, we're going to play hockey for everyone back home. So Winnipeg Jets are going to need to be ready, but everyone on the same side of this one, hoping that there are better days ahead for our friends down in Southern California. All right, listen, before we get to the marbles, let's get over to the Coolbet lines. And we've got a lot going on. First of all, let's get to the National Hockey League tonight. The Canucks are in Carolina to take on the Hurricanes. Vancouver's going to be here next Tuesday. Looking forward to that. That should be some fun media scrums. Canucks plus 143. Hurricanes minus 169. The Blackhawks are in Detroit to take on the Red Wings. Wings, under Todd McClellan, have been playing much better. They're minus 182 favorites. The Capitals are coming off that, PLD OT winner against the Canucks a couple nights ago. They're at home to the Habs. Washington, a minus 216 favorite. And we got to pick them tonight between the Kings and Jets. Basically, Kings minus 108, Jets minus 110. It was minus 122 last night. Obviously, that odds have changed a little bit, knowing that Connor Hellebuyck isn't going to be in net tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Total in that game is 5.5. Sharks and the Utah Hockey Club in the finale tonight. The HC, a minus 270 favorite. I am going to put together a WST parlay tonight. And we'll take Jets to win. We'll let's go with a Gabriel Velarde goal at plus 195, and maybe we'll mix in a what's Kyle Connor assist number at minus 118. So Gabe and Kyle Connor, Jets win. We'll have that up. Probably get boosted in around 5-1, or maybe even a little bit more, considering the almost 2-1 number on the Gabe Velarde goal. But National Football League. For sports bettors, this will be the highlight of the weekend. Here we go. Haven't seen much line movement, although just now a little bit in this Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. We started off with Chargers-Texans tomorrow. Chargers are 3-point favorites. The Baltimore Ravens have been 10-point favorites pretty much all week. We've got the Ravens at minus 9.5 right now. Bills 9-point favorites over the Broncos. Eagles 5-point favorites over the Packers. Bucks 3-point home favorites against the Commanders. And now with the game moved from LA to Arizona, the Vikings have gone from a 1-point favorite to a 2.5-point favorite. We did have a real fun lock shop today where we made all of our selections for the round. You can check the exclusives. Got a funny one. The rookie and the vet, OV goal and a Jeremiah Smith anytime touchdown score in the Texas-Ohio State game tonight. You got the shots, the point for the point, but the partner parlay, we all like the Chargers on the money line. We all like the Packers at plus 5.5. and we're taking the over 49.5 in the Tampa Bay Washington game. That was at 480. That's boosted to plus 553. And our house callers parlay, which is boosted to plus 745. Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, boosted up to plus 745. Those are all in the combo cards. And a little later on, check out the exclusives for a WST parlay for tonight's game. Gabriel Velarde scoring against his old team. Now listen, we're just about to do marbles, but Remis, I hear that the Jets quarter century team has been announced.
Yeah, the NHL doing this initiative announcing every team's quarter century team. That's the last 25 years. I tweeted out what my picks, Hustler, before they announced it. Some guys
I haven't heard them yet. Can I guess what they? What they are?
And I tweeted
no spoilers on this.
Okay, no spoilers. So they're doing this for every team, and then they're going to do the top 100 players. I think the fans will get to vote too. So it's the last 25 years because again, I tweeted out my picks, Huss, and one guy's like, "There's no Jets 1.0 on this list. Not accurate." I was like, I mean, they have any players from Jets 1.0 played for the Jets in the last 25 years? The answer is no. The answer is no. So reading comprehension, sometimes not 100% out there on X.
On the internet? On social media?
Yeah.
You don't say.
People tweet before they read, apparently.
All right. Now, listen, unfortunately, this is going to include Atlanta and the Atlanta years. So I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, this is going to be Connor Hellebuyck, Josh Morrissey, Dustin Byfuglien, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Ilya Kovalchuk.
For the first team?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay, nice.
That's what they put out.
Okay, and then what was the second team?
They sent it out. So I did not have Kovalchuk on the first team. Just he didn't play here. This is a marketing thing for Jets fans to get in front of. You're gonna put him on the second team. I think you can make an argument that Kyle Connor goes on the first team, but whatever. We got to have the NHL, gifted Utah that they don't have to inherit Coyotes, Jets histories. They can make the rules whatever they want, and the rules are we have the Atlanta history. So, sure. Anyway,
what was the second team?
The second team was Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, Brian Little, Enstrom, Trouba, Pavlik. So, it's kind of, there wasn't really.
I'm surprised Pav was over Lettinen.
Yeah, I guess so. He played more games, I think, but.
Listen, I'm glad there was only one Thrasher on the thing, and I'm sort of with you. We don't really think of those eras, but, by definition of this thing, that's why I knew Kovalchuk would be on it. He was one of the great goal scorers of the era. But other than that, the usual suspects. That'll be out. We'll talk more. Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't I had the same teams. It was actually really too bad that there was no debate on this. I debated Trouba versus Pionk. They played the exact same number of games for this second D on the second team. Maybe you could debate Lowry on there as well. But the goalies, Les Hood pointed this out. There's only been 10 goalies to suit up for this franchise. For Jets 2.0, it's only 10 goalies suit up. Connor Hellebuyck, knock on wood, again, never been injured, which is part of, how he's been able to rack up so many wins and just being awesome as well.
I said, he's built different. He's built different, and we'll be celebrating the accomplishments of Hellebuyck tonight before the game. If you're heading to the game, or if you're not, try and get your hands on some tickets and get down there a little earlier than normal for the Hellebuyck ceremony after the big 300th win, 40 shutouts, making NHL history faster than any goaltender other than Jacques Plante to get to those gaudy numbers in NHL history. Again, all the Coolbet stuff is up there. I've just put in for the WST parlay, Jets money line, Gabe Velarde goal, Kyle Connor assist. That will be up probably in the next half hour in the Coolbet exclusives on the left margin. Click on that. And of course, if you haven't played at Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. There it is.
Here. Yeah, and we got fancy graphics here for the Jets. They're NHL making this quarter century, and I don't know. Can we get like a petition to get the history changed so we don't have? Okay, can we put an end to having Thrasher's history?
Well, you know what you should do is just basically Photoshop that Kyle Connor thing and just stick it on top of Kovalchuk, and then we can move forward. Who would we put? Okay, if we take Kovalchuk out of this, here's the question.
Lowry.
Here's an extra why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. If we remove Kovalchuk, we move Kyle Connor up to the first team. Who is the other guy on the second team? I like the suggestion of Lowry. I mean, it's not just about points. I have a lot of time for Adam Lowry's place for the Winnipeg Jets with what he's done, the role that he's played, and how long that he's been here.
Yeah, I think he's played a lot of games. I pick Lowry. Would pick Lowry. And I think Enstrom, part of why I picked him is the Thrashers component as well. Played a lot of games for the franchise, but it is interesting to note how the NHL just decided, hey, Arizona now an inactive franchise. Jets 1.0 history with Arizona, Coyotes.
Well, hey, Arizona's coming back. You didn't see that?
And Utah starts fresh. Well, yeah, there was the report this week that the business leaders are meeting about it, and I actually agree with Elliot. Elliot Friedman know that. He says, hey, I'm not going to talk about Arizona until they have an arena. So they don't even have an arena. So they're far away from coming back. But
they're getting some committees going, going to have some meetings, going to start the process to get back to the bigs.
And then I saw Kevin Weeks tweet out a picture of like Atlanta with like eyeballs on it and like saying nothing. So who knows what that means? Expansion.
They're going to be expansion.
Well,
we're going to third time's a charm in Atlanta for the National Hockey League.
People are saying, what about Andrew Ladd? I guess you could put him. I think Lowry's just played so many more games. I don't know. Ladd was like a really good player. I don't know if he was like top. I guess he was their top player for the first bunch of years. You could make an argument. I mean, you could make an argument for Ladd as well. Was on the top line, top power play for a long time. But I think in the end, like he's gonna get passed by everyone for games. And you say, like, what do they mean to the franchise as a whole? I think Lowry would pass him.
Yeah, listen, Lowry does so many different things. And you know what? It's funny. Lowry is scoring. Like, Lowry's got 10 goals on the season. He's on pace for 20. Like, I look around at some of the... I'm going to do a list for next week. Adam Lowry has scored more goals than... And then we'll go through the list. Like, Connor Bedard scored in this last game just to get one ahead of Adam Lowry.
No.
Yeah. Adam Lowry's never on the power play. Listen, I could sit here and stump for Lowry for a very, very long time. The guy's having a monster season, doing everything for this club, wearing the C right now, and maybe one of the more underappreciated players in the National Hockey League. He's never going to have like the point-a-game stats that might put you up with those other stars, but people that know hockey that watch this team on a regular basis know how important he is to the Winnipeg Jets. All right, let's get to some marbles here.
One more thing for Lowry, fourth in franchise history for games played at 744, 11 seasons. So I mean, been here for a long time. Man. Draft pick from the first draft in the Scheifele year. So pretty incredible stuff from Adam Lowry, and yeah, the goals, man. That is crazy that he would have one less goal than Bedard, not getting first line.
They were tied going into the game the other day.
Not getting power play, probably way less minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, listen, Adam Lowry, congratulations. You're on the second team, all NHL. Kovalchuk's been kicked out. Kyle Connor got elevated. And you, my friend, are part of the all-time team, second team for the Jets over the, not all-time, in the last 25 years.
Yeah, 25, quarter century. That's why. People are mad at me on X that I didn't have any Jets 1.0 on.
That was a long time ago, folks. Longer than 25 years. We're dating all of ourselves. All right. We've got Tristan Rivers music ready to go. We got a marble race. We got a big weekend. We got a Hellebuyck celebration tonight. The Kings in town. We got the Avs here tomorrow. We've got NFL playoff football Oh, I'm so fired up. But again, the weekend doesn't start until the marbles drop, and the marbles don't drop until we hear from Tristan Rivers Music on WST.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. Phone the whole day in so that you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? Your blind luck could try. It's time to do a marble race. No skill separating best two words. Marble race. Just like marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't scramble, you will suffer rolling slave. Marble race. Your marble points too late.
All right, a little TRM to get us into the final act of the week on WST. It is the Marble Race. Shout out to our friends at Shipman Associates. Great promotional products company for supplying the championship hoodies. Shout out to Denise. She was coming in for the season ticket holder photo event the other day from outside of the city, and Popeye had picked up hers. Who will win? We will find out in a minute. Remis, if you can make sure that Hustler is in there in all caps, and I think we need to have a special marble, Heli 300 in for today.
Sure. They put out a logo, the Jets did, actually, for tonight. Check this out as I stall before the marble race, my favorite weekly activity. But here, I don't know if they're going to do, like, remember how they had T-shirts for, like, Sam Gagne 1000 and all that? I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is.
Got a walleye on it?
Is that like it can be a jersey with so people on the podcast, it's a 37 with a fish eating a rod and a bait on it. So we'll see. We'll see what they have planned.
Anyways, I'm getting there early tonight to pay respects to the man. We go through that, that quarter century team. If we were doing a quarter century Mount Rushmore, he's starting it. And I think if we're going through just the quarter century power poll, 37 is number one. Again, that's tonight before the puck drops between the Jets and Kings. So we're adding Hustler, we're adding Heli 300. And we're going where today, and how many other contestants? Seems to be a banging day in the live YouTube chat today.
Man, a lot of people in here. I don't remember getting this many on a Friday. People are fired up for the game, fired up for the weekend. You know what? They changed it. It's not Super Wildcard Weekend anymore. They put out a thing, or there was a report. Yes, people report on this. Mike Florio saying it's now just Wildcard Weekend. They did Super Wildcard Weekend for a couple years when they added the extra playoff spot to let people know, hey, this is bigger than and better than before. Now they're saying, hey, you know that it's bigger and better, but it's just regular Wildcard Weekend now. This is just what it is now.
It's no longer that super. Well, hopefully the games will be super at least. 2 tomorrow. Tomorrow, the game number 1, Chargers and Texans, 3:30 p.m. Steelers, Ravens tomorrow night. And then we go Buffalo, Denver, Packers, Eagles, Commanders, Bucks, and then Monday night, Minnesota and the Rams in Arizona. And shout out to Greg over at Royal, who is a big-time Vikings fan, was just searching. There are flights to Arizona Monday from Fargo, relatively reasonably priced, and tickets, as you can imagine, with the late change on the game, readily available and not too expensive. So you Viking fans, maybe an impromptu road trip is in the cards. Anyways, let's get this fired up. Where are we going today?
Okay, this race I tested and then I found it right before we were about to launch it. Let me see what it's called. It's called Seventh Great Festival, Has a bit of a funky finish, but it's good. You'll see.
I'm here for it. Maybe, I've actually had a couple of nice starts recently. Shout out to my guy Bozeman, who was in Costa Rica last week. Still barely missed getting in. I guess the time wasn't right. We have our weekly bet. I've been on a bit of a heater over the course of the last few weeks, but nice to see Bozeman back in here. And everybody else that's getting ready for the big race. All right, let's do this. I'm ready to go, and I think after some good starts for me, I think my marble. I've never even been in the top 10. I would take a top 10 finish. That's my goal for today, and of course to win my head-to-head bet with Shorn.
Okay, so
without saying,
I put in you, and I put in Hellebuyck 300.
Perfect.
Let me bring it up here.
All right. Seventh Great Festival.
Sorry, I screwed it up.
Okay, we got to load the marbles back in.
Yeah, I got to load them back in. Hold on.
Who's all at the game tonight? Let us know in chat while we're getting ready to roll. Don't mention your name to give yourself the hustler jinx. Why do they call Arrowhead Stadium Burrowhead? I don't know who you're talking about, but complete morons do that. You know where Burrowhead is? You know where Burrowhead is, Rob Mahoney? Wherever they're hosting the flag football game for the Pro Bowl this year. That's where you'll find Joe Burrow, if you're wondering with the playoffs starting. Sorry if Winnipeg Walter is in here. He just caught a bit of a stray. All right. Seventh Great Festival. 275 marbles today. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Massive turnout. Brand new track. As Remis has warned us, somewhat of a funky finish. We're here for it. WST hoodie from our friends at Shipman Associates, ready to go for the winner. Without further ado, let's get on with the weekend and drop the marbles on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Green Fest. Here we go. Kind of like a Plinko-y, but not totally up and down. What do we got here? Morgan Wiley, DJ 22, Kevin Kowalak, Yin Vivian, Phyllis. But Megan Wiley is first out. Key 99 or K9. K9 has often had nice performances in these marble races. All right, Megan Wiley, K9. I see Yin Vivian there. Logan, Jeff Johnson in the mix. And DJ 22 with that nice start. But it looks like Yin.
Yin, Yin's in Japan. She emailed us some pictures of her there. So shout out to Yin.
Oh, my God. This would be our first ever marble winner from anywhere in Asia, I think. I don't think we've had anyone that's actually won it on the road, but shout out to Yin. Yin, what time is it there?
Yeah, I don't know. She's just visiting, taking a cruise, she said.
Lovely, lovely. Very jealous. Picked a good time to get out, but great to have you still hanging with us. Okay. Dale Berzuk's in there. I see Russ Lowen on one side. Megan's still right in the mix. Oh, I think we just lost Lisa Urbanski, Eric Bayer, Lambert, and Steiner. There's a few top ropers. But Dale,
oh my God,
Berzuk, starting to lose a few more. Guess there's just too many marbles. People are going overflowing. Ric Flair, Dale Berzuk, Dunk Dynasty, Klassen. Oh, Jen Cool, Lock Shop regular. What's up, Jen? Jen just got thrown over the top rope, but have a nice weekend anyways, Jen. Doug McPherson and El Fassi. Jesse Pelche. Pelch! How fun was that last night? Jesse Pelche and I played a Jet beer pong with the original bro, Matt Riddle, last night at pregame after the wrestling event. That was a night that I will not forget for a long time. All right, we got Velveeta. We've got Dale Berzuk. We've got Markham Fanasuk. 22 Canuck is in the mix. Corey O's right there. But right now, Velveeta with the lead, I believe. Yeah, Velveeta first out, and now DJ 22. Sufnell hot on the trails in third, along with Russ Lowen, Amy Weave, and Becca. But Velveeta's looking at it again. Remember, this is somewhat of a funky finish. So we're going to see exactly how who can get through. Nothing's guaranteed until you're in the hopper. Here's Velveeta. Here's DJ 22.
So yeah,
now in this hopper. Who's going to make it? Velveeta's gone through. Phyllis is right behind him. But Velveeta does get the win ahead of a hard-charging Phyllis. What a performance by Phyllis. Second place. Incredible finish. Oh, I got my top 10. 7th place. It's called calling your shot, people. I'm a considerate person. I didn't want to win and deprive a WST listener of the hoodie. I'm already wearing one for that matter. But, I mean, a called shot. Top 10. How about that? Tough for my pal Shorn. Another win for us. I'm stacking them up these days. I'm stacking them up. All right, everyone's coming in. Great track. Great track. A real fun one.
Good track. So there's a portal in the finish, and it comes out right before. That's why they're all going like back and forth. That was the funky part. But
I gotcha. Okay. Velveeta 90. Well done. Well done. And congratulations to the top 6. Let's get back to it. Velveeta, Phyllis, Corey O, Garrett Soloway, and Rick Fair. You were the only marbles to beat me today. Hustler, 7th place. After I said my goal was a top 10 finish today, I got it. Oh, this is going to be a great weekend. We're winning tonight for sure. WST parlays cashing as well. Rob Pepper at 8, Amanda Penner and Pretty and Pionk is the top 10. And then we'll continue rolling down. BA Split, nicely done. Greg Hasbeek, 17th, pretty good. Just 10 back of 7th place. The Big Uke from Edmonton, nicely done. Oh, there's the Steminist. But a winner just came in and picked up her thing. Spency 5 Centsies there. The Power, Derek Schmidt, Mark Amph, Mary Jane. Hi, Mary Jane. Terrence. What else do we have here? Greg W. Matt Hyman. Comet. Klassen's there. Northside Sandwich. Another Edmonton. Hellebuyck. Helly 300 came in at 65. There's Tristan Rivers Music. Royal Sports in at 75 today. Megan Wiley, Jeff Bowes, Dan Jets fan. There's Bravo Bry. What's up, Bry? 84. Poopy Pants. Disgruntled Raider fan, Todd Fertani at 87. That was a tough listen. I was thinking about you in chat while we were talking to Hacksaw, and he just absolutely destroyed the Raiders. There's Candace Jane. Derek McGorn. What's up, D? Ross Ransby. Roscoe. What's going on? There's Larry Eloy. Rick Benson was right there at the start. Ended up being, obviously got stuck somewhere. Peg City Hawks fan. Al Broderick. What's up, Al? David Asplin. Transcona Logan. There's the Running Man. Our guy Les Thompson. What's up, Les? Mike Wynn. There's Cowboy. T. Will. Andre Haleko. World Sports. Cam Thang. Wild Thang. How you doing? Dave Stretch. Leslie Misnock. There's Atomic. Michael Lay. What's going on, Mike? Mike will be at the games this weekend. Accountant to the Stars. Michael Lay. Great friend of ours. David D. Spency and Danny C. The final one. And then everybody else below that, including our buddy Gitch Lishka, got top roped and was unable to finish the race. But the story today in the marble race, Velveeta getting the dub and me calling my shot for a top 10 performance and coming in 7th. Hey, by the way, speaking of the games this weekend, we look great, but next Thursday is our next WST night. We had sold out. We added some more seats. So get them before they're gone, folks. 61 includes the ticket and a beverage of your choice, beer in the bar there behind our section. So hopefully we'll see you there. Had so much fun, and we are undefeated. In fact, we're undefeated from the 3 losses that we started with the package last year, Remo. It all turned around with everything on the line against Calgary last year, and then we have just hit the ground running, and we are looking to extend that streak to 4-0 on Thursday in Section 316 with the WST crew. So if you haven't already, jump on those seats before they're gone. WinnipegJets.com/WST. And we'll look forward to making it 4-0, hopefully with the crew on Thursday night. Man, Remis, a 7th place. I mean, what a way to go into the weekend.
Yeah, you're just on such a high, Huss. You had your great night at wrestling last night, cementing yourself as in the business, and now top 10 in the marbles. Called shot here. I don't have any control for anyone saying, it's fixed. No, it's all just put the names in randomly in the program, and
if you've been around long enough, you know very well that there's no rhyme, no reason to it. But that's the beauty of it. Oh, Velveeta, by the way, I should have mentioned this. I think I did. Send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Let me know what your hoodie size is. We'll holler at you and get you a time to come by and pick it up. Fun show today. And again, going to be a real great sports weekend. Games tonight and tomorrow. Kings and Avs. Celebrating Hellebuyck's 300th this evening. And then 3:30 tomorrow. 6 playoff games. Well, I guess 5 on the weekend. The 6th game Monday night between the Vikings and Rams. And that game, of course, moved to Arizona due to the fires in Southern California. A huge thanks to Lee and the Mayor John Hoven. And, while we're, getting ready to watch what should be a great game tonight between the Jets and the Kings, save a thought, a prayer, if that's something that you do, for everyone dealing with the horrible fires right now that are ravaging Southern California. That's going to do it for us. Fun show today. Thanks to Brandon. Thanks to the mayor. Thanks to Hacksaw. Everyone joining us in chat. And I'll tell you what, hopefully we'll see some of you at the game tonight, and see you next Thursday for our next WST game when the Kraken come to town. That is going to do it for us. Thanks so much to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday, 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk to wrap the weekend, look ahead to the Canucks visit on Tuesday, and, of course, the Monday Nighter wildcard weekend finale between the Vikings and the Rams from Arizona. Have a great weekend. See you Monday. Thanks for being with us on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.